learned the hard way. Nothing's overnight. Some days you lose, some days you survive. Still strong, even moving slow. Every step counts more than you know. I found gold in the everyday, and showing up and staying brave. Still strong.
Josie Hoffman, welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here.
Josie, you got an interesting story. We're going to dig into it. The reason why you're sitting here is at 21, you were diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. That's
Correct.
why you're here. Before we get down to business, I want to take care of some other business. Kind of give a little backstory of how we met and why you're here. So about 10 years ago, my sister was putting on an event, and the speaker of that event, come to find out, was in my kindergarten class. And when I lived in Greenville, South Carolina for those 5 years.
Okay.
So we connected, became Facebook friends. And then through him, I started finding other kids that were my kindergarten class, first grade class, and just started like connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Josie Hoffman showed up on my friends you might know, and I sat next to Josie in school. She was right next to me in kindergarten. Okay. The teacher's pet. I was the troublemaker. Okay, so the two of us did not get along. I got a lot of spankings at home because I got a lot of notes at home because of Josie. I cheated off her test. Hey, teacher, he's looking at my paper, like everything. So, Josie, we sit next to each other. So I became Facebook friends with you.
So even after that in kindergarten, you wanted to be Facebook friends.
I did.
That's good to
That's
know.
just the way. I'm just a good person. I don't hang on to that stuff. So you and I have been Facebook friends for probably 5 to 10 years, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it's about that time. Yeah.
So you had posted last year, I believe, your cancer survivor story. I messaged you, said, hey, your story resonates. I'm doing a podcast called Still Strong. It's about life struggles. Would you be on the podcast? Long story short, you agreed.
Mm-hmm.
We booked a flight.
Mm-hmm.
You're here from Maryland all the way to Florida.
Correct.
Okay. And after you agreed and booked the flight and everything, you said, hey, let's play a game. How do we know each other? I'm like, Josie, what do you mean, how do we know each other? We sat next to each other in kindergarten. I started name dropping people. I named our teacher. She's like, no, I don't know any of those people. And I didn't go, I went to school in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So mistaken identity.
Mm-hmm.
But I just still can't get over this. You agreed to come before you knew who I was.
Well, but in fairness, remember, I thought that you knew my husband. And that's why I had accepted the friend request. Because I thought I used to have a joint profile with my husband.
Okay.
He didn't want his own for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
people did that. So I thought that you knew my husband. And then we had that one mutual friend.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, it's probably just somebody I've bumped into in the past who also knows my husband. I don't accept requests from like strange people. It sounds terrible. But that's why I was like, oh, well, that's, we just connected that way.
Yeah.
So
I'm beginning to learn that there are no coincidences.
yes,
And,
very true.
You being here, I think, is providential. Just having you here yesterday, getting to know you and your husband, like we're cut from the same cloth. I connected you with you quickly. And I'm looking forward to growing a relationship with you and your husband.
Absolutely.
I found out a lot about Maryland. Like my wife wants to travel. It's only a 3-hour flight.
I know.
You're right
You can come
outside
up.
DC. So my wife's like, hey, Keith, one good thing about this podcast is you're meeting a lot of people all over the place. So we can like do some
All
traveling.
these people we can go see.
Yeah. So let me, a couple things. I'm going to give you a formal introduction, but before I do, I normally give out my Richardson 112 hats, but you didn't seem to be the hat
I'm more of a-
type wearing gal.
That's fair.
So I got you one of my Still Strong t-shirts.
I will wear a t-shirt.
You can wear that while you're out doing your yard work and whatever you do.
But
up
then
in
it would get all
Maryland.
dirty. Is it supposed to get dirty?
You can do what you want. It's still strong, baby. Still strong, girl.
I brought something for you and your wife.
Okay.
So here's your wife's gift. I think your wife does a lot of coordinating for you and organizing. So I figured
Bird
she could use
speeds.
something.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, she books the flights.
she does.
She books
She
the
sets it all up.
hotels. She's a busy woman. She's like, Keith, quit starting businesses because every business you start is more work for me. And it's
So-
true, isn't it, Michael?
And then I've watched the podcast. I know you're not a big reader. Well, you're not a big book lover. However, these are 2 books I thought you might actually enjoy. So this is just Promises of God. And I find that, and we'll talk about it probably more on the podcast, the promises of God are always true and they never change. And so if you can learn them and you can reference them and you can go back to them, they've been a great comfort to me.
Good.
Or a challenge, like you have to do this to get this. But God always fulfills his promises. So, and then
Thank
I don't
you.
know, do you know the story of R.G. Letourneau?
No.
So I thought with you being in the construction business, this would be kind of appropriate. My dad told me about him. He's a man who developed a lot of the equipment that like Caterpillar uses and things, a lot of the earth moving equipment.
Cool.
He was also a very, very, very strong Christian man of God.
Cool.
And so this is just one of his autobiographies.
Cool. Thank you.
But he talks a lot about his faith and about how God gave him the talent that he uses to create this equipment. So I know you don't always have a lot of spare time, but I thought that one might be interesting for you.
No, I'll do it. Thank you.
So
Thank you. Yeah, when we find out what we're built for and the talents that God gives us to accomplish what we're built for, there's nothing like it.
I agree.
Not everybody has found what they're built for. A lot of people are just going through the motions, going to a job they hate, and just but when you find what you're built for, and especially as a Christian, when even the plowing, your manual work can be used for the glory of God, that's a whole nother level of fulfillment and blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you. I will read that. You ready for this proper introduction?
Sure.
Here we go.
Let's see how you go.
Here we go. Josie Hoffman, born in Denver, Colorado. I've been to
Born and
Denver
raised.
once, and I liked it. And I enjoyed Denver.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. You've been married to your husband, Kevin, for 23 years. I met him yesterday for the first time. I love that guy.
He's a great guy.
He's kind-spirited. You can
Yes.
tell he's just a very kind person.
Yes.
Gracious.
Very gracious.
Yeah.
He balances me out in every way that I could ask for. So
You have 2 daughters, 16 and 13. Let's talk about them for a while, because I got 5 daughters. I got 2 teenage daughters that you've
Close
met.
in
So
age.
let's talk about your girls. What are they like?
So Katie just turned 16 in January. In the state of Maryland, you can't get your license till 16 and 9 months. So she's still doing the permit thing. She's ready to get her license, get a little bit of freedom. She is so responsible. I don't know how I got such a responsible kid. She loves the Lord. And she challenges me spiritually. At times, I feel like she's a more consistent Christian than I am, to be honest.
That's cool.
She loves the Lord. She actually feels called to missions. She doesn't know where. She's got kind of open mind, but she's a heart for the lost, heart for people hurting, heart for that. Good student, typical firstborn, very diligent, does her chores, keeps her room clean, helps around the house, all that
I'm the
stuff.
firstborn, so everything you're talking about, I feel that
You're like, that's you,
responsibility.
right? See, I was the
feel
fourth
it.
born. I was not responsible.
Yeah, I was responsible. I was responsible to the task dictated to me. But when you talk about your daughter having a heart for God and all that, like I didn't have that in me until much later.
Well,
But I could get my work done and be responsible.
But it's never too late, right, Keith?
Yeah.
You've got a heart for God now.
Yeah.
So
your other daughter, the 13-year-old.
she is my thrill seeker, my adventure taker, my very emotional child in good ways. She's very passionate, but she also feels things very deeply. There's 2 sides to it. She grew 5 inches in 7 months and 4 shoe sizes.
Wow.
She's all of a sudden almost taller than I am.
Wow.
And she can't keep up with her body. She's at that age but she's wild, crazy, daring. I tell everybody she's either going to probably marry a missionary and go to some third world country and develop a way to get water to the village, or she's going to be an engineer and redo bridges across the country. She's currently trying to decide between being a school teacher or an Air Force pilot for a career.
That's cool.
So she's just very passionate, very feeling, very empathetic. She loves to do research on topics she loves, you know. So we got them guinea pigs in Thanksgiving, and she'd researched everything about what they needed and the cages and the food and this, and you know, and when we took them to the vet, because we learned that we were not given two females, we were given a male and a female. So we took the male to the vet to get him neutered, so we didn't have more guinea pigs. She knew so much, the vet offered her a job on the spot.
What kind of tools do you need to neuter a freaking guinea pig, huh? Some micro tools? I mean,
They're
what do
very little, very little.
Something similar to dentistry tools.
So she's very passionate about what she loves. You know, she's got a good set of friends. She's going through her own spiritual journey. You know, she's passionate, but sometimes she struggles with, what do other people think of me? Which my firstborn doesn't really struggle with that, you know. So they're good kids. God blessed us with really good kids. We've tried to keep God in the center of their life. I worry as a parent I'm going to mess them up someday. But you know, God has given us great kids. They have a very good reputation at their church and school for being hardworking servants, you know.
Good.
And yet we love, like this summer, we're going to go to Cedar Point in Ohio. We love roller coasters. We love hiking. We love, I don't know, pretty adventurous outdoors.
Just a little bit I got to know you. The circle of Christianity that you run with is on the conservative side. And I associate conservatism with judgmentalism. Yeah. And you are anything but judgmental.
Well, thank you. We try not to be.
And even like listening to the way you're raising your girls, like you're having real heart-to-heart conversations where it's easier just to say, just do it because I told you to. Right. But you're telling me conversations you're having with your girls. And I think that's important. And I wish, like looking back on my kids, I wish I would have invested some time in those kind of conversations, because I felt like we would have got further in our relationship, not only with our relationship, but with the relationship with God. Yeah. I felt like I might have hindered their perception of God because I told you to. No, I got to get to work. You know what I mean? Like slowing down to have those conversations. Women are built differently than men. Luckily, my wife is in tune with that, and she speaks into my children. Like she speaks into them.
Well,
she's a good
I think
woman.
There's a little bit of scripture behind that too. Yeah. You know.
So you got some hobbies, some interests, and some passions here. You like hiking, roller coasters. Yeah. Listen, you and I would not get along because I get sick, but you said your husband gets sick. And my wife likes roller coasters. You're into animals, your church, and the special needs community. Any of those you want to talk about? Like, what kind of hiking trips do you go on?
So we take like shorter day hikes, especially with some of my long-term health challenges related to the cancer. But we'll do, you know, things down there in Harper's Ferry. We're about 20 minutes from Harper's Ferry, where we are in Maryland. Okay. And there's a lot of trails that you can go on, you know, so like I said, they're day hikes. They're 2-3 hours. We've done like the cabin in West Virginia, and then you can just hike and run around through the woods and things like that. So when I say hiking, it's not like the rappelling hiking in Colorado, but it's a lot of fun. I love to be outside. I love to be out in nature. I know that sounds funny, but the quiet, away from the craziness of life, just enjoying the quiet out there, you know, enjoying the beauty. Yep. There's such beauty in this country. Like, that's the cool thing about growing up in Colorado and then moving out to Maryland and traveling to other parts of the country. Our country is so diverse. And I've often thought about it, you know, God could have made everything the same.
Oh, that's a good point.
God could have, you know, and he made it different. Yeah. And like, I love sunsets and sunrises. Like, I love the change and the beauty, and I take pictures all the time of it. And it's, once again, God could have just had the sun come up. Right. But God gives us the beauty of the sunrise and the sunset. And I think it's another time to reflect and also, you know, just take a deep breath and look and enjoy and stuff. So I do like to be outdoors. That's the hiking.
When I picked you up from the airport, it was around 11:30. I said, have you guys ate lunch yet? You said no. So we went and had lunch. And I said, well, we can go to the hotel, or we can come to my house, have some coffee and talk, or we can go out to our ranch and like have a scenic view and like kind of show you around. And your husband's like, I like scenic views. So we took a ride out there, and we rode the side-by-side around our property. And we talked about connection to nature and just going out there. It's only 40 minutes from here, but just getting out there and seeing the open pastures with the cows. And then we rode around the side by side and just turned it off and just hearing the wind and the nature without the human element. It has an effect on your stress level and everything else. Yeah.
It absolutely
it's
does.
important. Yeah.
Yes. And I always love, I think the Bible talks about in Matthew, God takes care of the lilies and the sparrows, and those animals don't have a care in the world. I mean, the donkeys were a little stressed when we came in because they weren't sure what was going on, but they just live life and they love it, and they don't, it's a good lesson. It's a good lesson, because I get caught up in so many cares and needs and stresses, and the lady that pulled out in front of us in traffic, and the animals don't care about that. No. It's a good lesson. But
you have a career in finance. You're a financial advisor. You've been doing it for 20 years for a large firm that, if we said it, everybody would know. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Is that a passion of yours?
It is. I love helping people set goals, set, what they want to do with their money. I think money serves a purpose. And so what purpose do you want, or what is the end game, and helping people get there. I also love helping people understand. I grew up in a very blue collar household. My dad didn't understand investing. A lot of people I talked to don't understand investing, or, they're saving, but are they making their money work the best that it can so they can do the things they want, and I love helping people understand that, plan for things, find the next thing. Within the special needs community, that's a different level of financial planning. I love helping parents with that. They have enough to handle with taking care of the child. Let me help you with the finances. Let me help you plan. Let me help you set things up. So it is something I'm very passionate about. I didn't discover that till I got to college. I wanted to go into business, but I didn't know what. And then I started taking classes, and it was like, oh, that's what I want to do. So it is something I love. So
the last thing here, and I ask everyone, is you're 46 years old, 46. So time flies.
It does.
But with age, we still have, we mature, we gain wisdom.
We should, right?
But we always need to set goals and always need to keep moving forward. Even at 46, 56, 66, we might not be able to do the things we did the way we did in our 20s, but still getting after those things that God has for us to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're doing that.
I'm trying. Yeah. I don't want to sit still. I don't want to stop. I don't want to, you do have to change.
Yeah. Adapt. Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, let's do your backstory. So I learned a lot about you in our conversation, but life for Josie growing up, in this wheelhouse of your growing up in your home. I know you had 2 special needs siblings that we want to talk about. What taking care of them? What were they like? And so let's just get the ball rolling.
Sure.
And then as we connect on things, providentially or accidentally, we can just kind of hit the pause button and just drill down there.
Sure.
We'll just take it slow and see where it goes.
Sounds good.
All you.
Sounds good. Like you said, I was born in Denver, Colorado. My parents had, they just moved from Chicago to Denver about a year and a half before I was born. My dad moved out there. He worked for Exxon. They were looking him to manage car washes out there. And so I was the first child born in Colorado. I was the youngest of 4 born in 6 years. Parents thought they were done, raising these 4 kids. I was definitely the spoiled youngest for a little while. I'll admit that. And then when I think I was 2 or 3, I obviously don't remember because I was younger. My dad got laid off from Exxon, and he started working for a man. He found the job in the newspaper, which you don't find jobs in the newspaper anymore, but he had his lawn sprinkler company. So he started working there, and then the man gave him the business. So my dad grew up running a landscaping and irrigation company. So as you understand with kids, the kids naturally are workers in the business. That's the way it works. So I grew up helping my dad summers, learning about this business, learning hard work. My dad's probably one of the hardest working men I know. He set a really good example on that. And then when I was little, I think it was around 4, these ladies knocked on my front door. My mom, stay-at-home mom, answers the door. And they were ladies following up with visitors who'd come to their church the last week, but they had the wrong address. It wasn't my parents, but they decided to talk to my mom anyway. And they shared with her the plan of salvation. She accepted Christ. She got saved. That's how we got in church.
Wow.
So then we started going to church. My parents became believers, and then the world changed a lot. Prior to that, my dad was a good dad. He wasn't a bad dad. My mom was a good mom, but it was a different focus. God definitely became a part of our life. You know, we went to church. Things were great. And then when I was around 7, my parents decided maybe we should have more kids. You know, I think every parent has different discussions with that. So they had 2 kids, 15 months apart, both of them special needs. Tim was actually a birth injury. So he's kind of got touches of things. And then Esther was born 15 months later, and she has Down syndrome. Neither one of them they knew before birth, obviously. So it was a surprise in the delivery room. Believe it or not, this was the late 80s. They tried to talk my parents into institutionalizing both of them, you know, because at that time, like, they didn't have the same capabilities. They didn't have the same programs. And my parents very much adhered to, you know, it talks about we're fearfully and wonderfully made. God knew they were going to be that way. God knew that. But it was a big adjustment for our family. I also went from the privilege.
Hold on
Go
a
ahead.
minute.
Yeah.
There's this recurring theme with how over time society has certain mindsets that may or may not be right,
Yes.
but it's just the way it was. So with what you just said, like in society to institutionalize them, if that was the norm.
Yep. Because they were seen as a burden.
And in my personal walk with how I'm navigating this life, I'm becoming more aware of the norms of our culture that may not be normal and may have an effect on how I think. So thankful for your mom and dad.
Yes.
Who didn't go with the norm of culture, but had something else inside of them that they went with.
Yes.
And I think it's important for us as parents, leaders, anybody in a position of authority to slow down and ask some questions before we just go with what culture or society says is normal.
Yes.
Because culture changes.
Yes.
I mean, 100 years. Like look how much it's changed in our lifetime.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, even something as extreme as slavery, or women weren't allowed to vote or be homeowners, you know, or there's a lot of things. And also along those lines, this is kind of a subtopic, but society as a whole, but also the little societies, like you talked about, you know, what stripe of conservatism you want or whatever. Those also have norms that I think sometimes should be challenged. Obviously, if it's founded in God's word, it shouldn't be challenged.
Right.
But other times, I think they should be challenged, I think, or at least evaluated, I guess is a better way of looking at it.
It's kind of scary for me because I like things in nice, clean boxes.
Yes.
And life is not, sometimes the answers aren't clear.
It's true.
And as a husband, father, grandfather, like, I want to make sure that I'm getting it right and not just, we're going to go this way because it's in a nice, clean box. Anyway, I'm just challenging my own thinking. Why do I think the way that I think? Why do I do the things I do? What is persuading that thought? So, because there's all these things pulling us. So
There are.
anyway, I didn't mean to stop your conversation.
It's conversational. We're supposed to, right?
Yeah. So it was normal for them to be institutionalized because they're perceived as burdens.
Yeah.
Your parents went against the norm.
They did.
Okay, so let's pick it up.
It was a big shift for me. I was the youngest privileged babied, we'll say. My sister says I was very indulged. I don't know, my perspective's different. I probably was. And so not only did I have younger siblings, but they took a lot of my parents' time. A lot of time. They took a lot of everybody's time. But you know, one of the things that having 2 special needs siblings has taught me so much about life is slow down, take the time, evaluate, decide what's important, you know? One of the things that we always talk about with Esther, my little sister with Down syndrome, you could not hurry that child to save her life. You could
Mm.
not. You never rush her anywhere. She just took her time. She just did what she wanted in life, you know? And sometimes I get so caught up in being hurried that I have to be here at this time and I have to go see this person and I have to get this done. But sometimes we need to take a step back and we need to take a break, and having two special needs siblings. Now, they were not my children, so I can't say from a parental perspective, but siblings, they teach you so much about life that you cannot learn from anybody else.
Mm.
And I love how society has embraced them and made them mainstream or whatever you want to call it, because you can learn from them. You can appreciate them. And yes, they are more work. They are I guess a burden from the broadest standpoint, but they're not, because they are a blessing. They take a lot of work, but they are a blessing. So my parents, Esther, so Tim was on oxygen for a little while. He had some health issues. They didn't know, how he's going to turn out because he was a birth injury, basically, with, what is he capable of? What's his things going to be? And then when Esther came along, that was another parameter. Down syndrome, most people don't know, comes on varies of severity, for lack of a better term. And of course, you don't really know that when the kid's born. They're a baby. Esther was born with a hole in her heart that they knew they're going to have to fix surgically. She was born with some other health complications. She was on oxygen, I think, the first 8 months of her life, which anybody who's had to carry oxygen everywhere they go, my heart goes out to you. It's, you have to pack up. It's another level.
Especially back then.
Yes, it was very different back then with a baby and, whatever. But we had fun in it. We enjoyed watching them hit milestones. We enjoyed seeing them. And then, while we're just transitioning through childhood, when I was 11, my mom decided she wanted to divorce my dad. As a child, I don't know that you ever understand that. Your parents tell you what's going on, but I think you don't ever understand it. And I think every parent every person makes the decision that they feel is best in the moment. I don't understand my mom's decision, but I also was not her. So I'm not going to sit and say, I would have never done the same thing, or I would have, whatever. I think there were strains in their marriage. There was something, she was upset at my dad for a couple of things, and I think she just never got over it. And then I think the extra pressure of the kids was just too much. My dad owned his own business, and she was trying to homeschool us. And there were, these two special needs kids that took all this work, and I think she was just done.
So something that I'm learning from whatever God has in this Still Strong podcast, one thing that I'm personally learning is you only know what you know from your angle of view.
Absolutely.
And you don't see the whole angle.
Yep.
You never know the whole story. You don't know it all.
Yeah.
And human beings are prone to make harsh judgments based on the sliver of angle that they see from their perception. And I'm learning that you can't go wrong giving someone the benefit of the doubt or giving them some grace to say, hey, you know what? I might not know the whole thing. There are some other things at play here that I may not know. And the divorce, there's a lot of people I've had in those podcasts that most of them I think have gone through divorce. And it's from a child's standpoint, you can speak to this from a child's standpoint. It's like a ripping apart. It's like your life is just a rip, like an open wound. So there's what you feel, and you have your perception of where you're at, but there's also other perceptions, right? There's also other angles that you're not knowing. And
my dad used to say people usually make a different decision because they have different information than you. And it's very true. Same perspective,
I'm again, I like things in nice, clean boxes. Yeah. Life is not in clean boxes.
It is not in clean boxes.
It's messy.
I don't even know if it's in the same room sometimes.
So 11 years old, you were having your own feelings, I'm guessing. I'm sure that at 11 years old, you're, especially a girl, you're trying to figure out who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine how you must have been feeling. What emotions were at play in that 11-year-old girl? Was there depression? Was there anger? Was there sadness? Was there frustration? I
think there's a lot of frustration. I think one of the things that divorced kids have to deal with is, especially at the age I was, is like, I mean, my mom said, you need to pick who you want to live with. Well,
That's hard.
how
That's
do you
hard.
pick a parent?
How do you pick a parent?
How do you pick a parent? And my mom, when I was little, like we did fun stuff. She read books with us, took us to the park, and my dad, like, how do you pick your parents?
Impossible.
How do you do that? And then you feel like it's this big, huge decision that's permanent.
Mm.
And there's all these other dynamics like, what are my siblings going to pick? And what if my sibling picks a different choice? And, what's going to happen there? And I think it ruins a lot of foundation. And I'm not criticizing any parent who divorces. Please don't think that. I will say as a child, it's emotionally devastating. That sounds very dramatic, but it's the truth. And I know life happens. I'm not saying there should never be divorce. I'm just saying it's hard. And then I will say you always have that little tiny hope that your parents are going to get back together someday. It's all going to go back to the way it was, And especially as a child, you don't notice the problems. You don't, unless they're major. You don't notice that, my parents maybe didn't get along very well or whatever. I don't remember any of that. I just remember all of a sudden my parents are like, oh, we're getting divorced.
I can almost guarantee you that the oldest sibling picked up on a lot of that stuff.
She did.
Because
she was 17.
As me being the oldest, I had a perception of what's going on in our household. The younger ones, you kids are just running around chasing butterflies. Like, you guys are just...
Oh, absolutely.
We're
having fun.
The older ones are carrying all the burden, man.
Yeah, it's very true. And my sister's viewpoint of the divorce is very different than mine. Very different. And of course, she had different things said to her, or she had some things said to her that were pretty toxic in themselves. I had things said to me that were pretty toxic in myself. I also know that hurting people hurt people. I think somebody said that on one of your previous podcasts.
There's a lot of recurring themes happening.
And my mom was hurt by a lot of people, and a lot of things happened during the divorce that will probably impact me the rest of my life. My mom and I have a very distant, tentative relationship. We've never really had a close one after the divorce. I hope someday we could get together with it. I can share with you my viewpoint, but this is not to be, I guess, judgmental of my mother.
No.
She's very angry at my father, And I was pretty close to my dad. I think I was going through the divorce. I was one of the closest ones. And she took a lot of it out on me to hurt my dad.
Oh.
And I know my mom loved me, and I think my mom still loves me. I don't doubt her love, but I often felt, and sometimes I still feel, that her love was conditional. And also her dislike, hatred, anger, whatever emotion you want to use towards my dad was stronger than her love towards me. And that's also hard as a kid.
That's painful.
Yeah.
That's painful. But again, I'm learning so much sitting over here, listening to people's stories over there. Everybody is a teacher.
Yeah.
Positively and negatively. Right. And when we can, through God's grace, say, you know what? I think my mom did the best she can. She had her demons. She had her thing. Her choices made me feel this way. I'm going to stop that here with me. I'm not going to pass that along to my kids.
Absolutely.
Giving your mom grace.
Yes.
Mom, I don't know the whole story, but I learned something here, and I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change because we can continue that. We can be like you said, hurting people hurt. Bitter parents can have bitter children, like all these things. But when we have some clarity and be like, man, I know how I felt. I'm not gonna pass that along to my babies. Then that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing.
I find that, and I decided when I had kids that I would try not to make the same mistakes that my mom made. And
you're just making different ones.
Yeah, I am making different ones. I'll admit that.
Yeah, we all do.
It was hard being a teenage girl without a mom. My oldest sister was off at college. She was a great support to me, but she's off at college. My grandmother at the time lived in Florida. She's a great support to me, but she's down in Florida. And I had to go through a lot of the teen things without a mom. And I remember deciding as a teenager that I would do everything that I could not to do that to a kid. And I try now with my girls to take the good from what I was raised and use that. But I try to be to my girls what I didn't have. And I think, like you said, everybody can be a teacher. You can learn from negative experiences just as much as positive ones, you know? And you can say, okay, I don't want to do that. Not that that person's terrible, but I don't want to do that behavior. And I don't want my kids to have to do that. And I think we can learn from that because it does change our behavior and shape. And, you know, back to God's promises, God promises to take care of the widows and the orphans, which I was not a widow or an orphan, but I was motherless, I would say. And he put different women in my life at different times that I needed to help me.
And you didn't even realize it in the time.
No, you don't. And I look back now and I'm very thankful for some of those women, you know, very thankful. And my dad tried his best. He tried so hard to be both parents. And I look back at my dad going through that time and I have so much respect for him. He took it very well. Does that make sense? He didn't complain. He never badmouth my mom. He never did. He never was negative towards her, you know, and I think that
he probably couldn't because he probably felt guilty. Whatever she was mad at him about, he probably felt guilty.
He probably did.
You know, I'm just putting myself in his shoes. He probably I carry a lot of guilt about things, like how I raised my kids, like looking back, and like guilt will put you in your place.
Yeah.
Guilt will put you in your place.
Well, guilt will also consume you
Yeah.
if you don't give it up. That sounds terrible, but you know, one of my kids' favorite songs right now is there'll be a day when I am like Jesus and I'll forget everything that I've confessed to him. So, you know, when we confess our sins to God, they're gone and we hold on to them.
Yeah.
You know, and if sometimes we need to confess and move on, not that there's not consequences, but I think sometimes that can cause more damage too, because if we don't let go of the mistakes that we made, they can consume us in the present.
Listen, you hit something powerful because I learned something. When you relive past events, not only does it have a mental wear on you, but whatever those events were that you were reliving that caused you anxiety, that caused you fear, that caused you whatever, when you rehearse those over your head, those same effects physically are you having on you.
Yes. Yep. It does.
So if you, back then, if whatever you went through gave you an ulcer, when you relive that, you're prone to get an ulcer. Like all these stressors on your
There's
body.
body memory.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but it makes sense.
Well,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's some things in my life that I relived over and over because it felt good. And then just to feel that fatigue. So there's something to be said for leaving at the cross.
Yeah.
Let him carry it. We're not built. Listen, we are physically not built to be carrying around this stuff for an extended period of time. It's going to come out somewhere.
It does.
Without the cross, it comes out in alcoholism. It comes out in hatred. It comes out in bitterness. It comes out in hurting someone else. It's going to come out somewhere. We're not built to walk around with all this stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, if we can, I want to talk to you about your sister with the Down syndrome.
Sure.
And I think you were her caretaker. Like when your parents got divorced, it was you and your dad and
my brother.
Your brother and your sister?
So when my parents got divorced, of the 6 kids, my oldest sister was at college. And then when she came home like breaks, she lived with my dad. And then she became an RN, so she was pretty busy with that. And then the next sister down moved with my mom, so she was with my mom full time. And then my brother and I are 2 years apart. We stayed with my dad. And then Timmy and Esther, my parents had joint custody, which changed probably every 12 months. I lost track of, whatever. They were with my dad predominantly because we had a better school district for them to be in with the special needs community. So when they were with my dad, I was a mom. I wasn't mom, but I was, like you said, a caretaker. I did a lot of the back to school shopping and the giving him a bath at night, getting him to bed, getting him up in the morning.
How old were you during this time frame?
Started at age 12.
12.
My dad used to drop my brother and I off at the grocery store to go grocery shopping, and then he would go do a job and come back and pick us up and take us home. I mean, you learn fast.
Sometimes life deals you cards and you don't have time to process it.
No.
You just need to keep moving and figure it out. You can't stop. And so it sounds like you guys were thrown into this, you're just slung into this situation where we got to figure it out.
But sometimes being that busy is good.
Mm.
It A, doesn't allow you to feel sorry for yourself. And B, as a teenager, it probably kept me out of trouble.
Wow.
I'm a pretty adventurous kid. I might have done things I would have regret. I didn't have time. Like I just flat out didn't have time. I didn't have time to get into teen dating. Not that I'm, I didn't have time to get into the wrong activities. I was busy. I was doing full-time school. I was still in junior high and high school. And then I helped my dad in his business during the season and helped with Timmy and Esther and grocery shopping and back to school shopping. And in the special needs community, they have a meeting every year called the IEP. It's Individual Education Plan. And it's the parents, the teachers, everybody trying to create a team to set a plan, because every special needs kid is different. And those always got contentious because my mom would be there and my dad would be there and I would be there. And then all these teachers are there. And of course, my mom and dad don't agree on anything. And, it just gets complicated and stuff. And so I did a lot of that. You learn a lot about, like I said, patience. Esther taught me more patience than I will probably be able to use, even though I'm still impatient.
Wow.
But she taught me so much about love for others. Esther never met somebody she didn't like. She just loved everybody. And so Esther, she was born with a heart defect. They did open heart surgery at 16 months, and then her heart was pretty healthy after that. She didn't have a lot of complications with her heart. She was prone to ear infections, and she had eye surgery. What else did Esther have? She had stuff here and there, but once she got past like 3 or 4, she was physically pretty healthy. She didn't have a lot of challenges. And you're probably going this direction anyway. So Esther was 24, so I would have been 33. My dad called and he said, Esther just collapsed at Sam's Club. She's with Flora, which is my stepmom. I got to go. I got to call the doctors back. I'm at work, answer the phone, whatever. And he called my sister and he called my brother. And my sister at the time lived in South Bend, Indiana. And my brother lived in San Francisco, California. And we're all just kind of anxiously waiting, trying to figure out what's going on because Esther was relatively healthy at that time. My dad called us all back. She'd been shopping with my stepmom at Sam's Club. And they were eating at the picnic tables there, like in the food court. And she stood up and she said, it hurts. And of course, her speech was pretty limited. She didn't have a wide speech. And then she just collapsed. Mm. And there was a nurse in the checkout line who came over and started doing CPR right away. And they called an ambulance, of course, and they got her to the ER. But they never got her heart restarted for almost 20 minutes. They were doing CPR. They never got her heart restarted. And they did like the reflex testing in the ER, and she didn't really have any reaction. Mm. But they do a medical procedure where they cool the body down for 24 hours, and it helps with brain swelling. And it's funny because my dad called all of us adult children and, updated us and don't come out. We don't know anything. Within 20 minutes, we all called each other. I just bought a plane ticket.
Good for you.
So we flew out to Colorado and we were there. They kept the body cooled down for about 24 hours. And then they start to warm it up. And it's about a 6-hour process to warm it up. And as they warmed Esther's body up, her heart just started having problems. And it became pretty clear that it wasn't a long-term sustainability. My sister at the time was a critical care nurse. She'd worked in open heart recovery for years. So she was very in tune with physical, watching things on the heart monitor, all that stuff. And Esther's heart just wasn't tolerating things. And so my dad had to make the decision because he was her legal guardian. We kind of all made it together to let Esther go. And that was probably one of the hardest decisions we've made, even though it was clearly the right decision. Yeah. It's hard to let go. She was young and we thought Esther was going to live a long time. She was very, very, very healthy. And I think that was hard for all of us because we'd all had such a different part in her upbringing. I had been mom while I was a teenager, and then she had my birth mom, and then she had my stepmom who'd help care for her, and my dad. And then my older sister who had been in college had also helped at times. There's so many of us that had a part in Esther's life that it was almost like she had multiple parents, for lack of a better term. It was hard to let go of Esther. It's very hard. And I think the family was in a lot of shock because she was young and we were trying to make sense of it. But, God did a really cool thing at her service.
Let's hear it.
We did a memorial service for her at 8 Mile Historic Park, which is a park in Denver that has they bring in the covered wagons and, they have all that Pioneer Days stuff. And she loved there. And they would go and my stepmom, Flora, and her would get all dressed up and they'd go in the period dress and they'd go, and Esther loved it. So we called them and they were like, you can do a service here, So we set up the service. We ordered Papa John's pizza, which was her favorite. And we had cupcakes there. And we wanted it to be a joyous celebration. But what was so neat about Esther's service is because she had loved everybody in the community. And she was very well known in the special needs community.
Whew.
We had over 400 people at our
Nice.
service. And my parents' pastor was able to share the love of God, clear testimony of salvation. And we sang hymns. We talked about God, and through Esther's death, we had an opportunity to impact all those people and be a blessing to all those people and share all the memories of Esther. And I never wanted to lose a sister, obviously. And I think it was really hard on my parents because they thought Esther was going to be there forever. They had never intended Esther to grow up and move out because she wasn't, But yet to have the opportunity to impact all those lives, you don't get that opportunity very often. So that was the blessing in it. But
I have a cousin. Her name was Rhonda.
mm-hmm.
Hearing you talk about your sister. Whew.
Yeah. Lots of emotions.
It's almost like you're talking about my cousin Rhonda. She drug around an oxygen tank. She wasn't supposed to live past the age of 20 or something like that.
Wow.
She lived to be, I think she was 50 when she died.
Wow.
Died a couple years ago. My uncle Ron said that in regard to children with Down syndrome or people with Down syndrome, as long as God's passing them out, I'll take as many as he wants to give me because she was so special.
Yes, they are.
Um,
And it makes me sad that people don't value their lives, to be
they
honest.
have a way of living life to the max.
Yes.
They have a life of not being intimidated by anybody else with their love or their emotions. They're just, in a way you kind of envy them the way that they're built because they're just enjoying life every day. And your sister, I get the impression that at the age of 24, she probably lived harder
Yes.
than someone who lives in their 70s, like a normal person who's afraid of what somebody's going to think about me, or should I, like those people with Down syndrome, man, they just, their love is on
It's
full
there.
volume.
Yes.
It's on
it
full
is.
volume with everyone.
Yep.
And similar with my cousin Rhonda, I made an impromptu visit to Michigan. And her health, I could tell her health was declining. I got to spend some time with her. And then in a few short months, she had declined. But the family got together and did the same thing. Everybody got together, and it wasn't a sad time. It was a happy time, because how can you be sad when you're talking about Rhonda? You know what I mean? How can you be sad talking about Rhonda and all this crazy stuff she did?
It's such mixed emotions.
You know what I mean? You fought head. She used to tell people, you fought head. My grandfather, you all fought. Just
Esther used to sit and go, where are we going? But she'd say, "We're going." I'd go, "Oh, well, Esther, we're busy. We're running my dad's business, going to school, doing the whatever. We're going. Well, Esther, we have to go to the store. We have to go get groceries. Da-da." And then, well, after that, we'll come home and, we'll make dinner. And then, well, and then we'll, have bath and go to bed. And then,
Yeah.
and she just she's just
going.
excited about the next thing. And very passionate. They're very passionate people. Very passionate people.
My cousin, she had an addiction to Coke. And not that kind of Coke. You over there. Come
I went
on,
there
man.
for a minute too, don't worry.
Coca-Cola. Come on, man. But my family members, they would have to, like, if they ever got one, would pop the tab, they'd have to do it quietly because she had ears from across the house.
I know.
And she would, Coke, like, she would, like, yeah, you had to hide them from her.
Esther loved any carb. She never would say no to any carb in her entire life. Macaroni and cheese, bread, Cheetos, yeah. She loved them. And she got really good at being, like, sneaky about taking second helpings, Or one of my favorite stories about Timmy and Esther, because they got to be buddies. They're 15 months apart. They're both special needs. They're the ones going back and forth between houses, so they got to be buddies. I'm running through the house the one afternoon. I can't find them. I know they're somewhere because we had to add locks to the doors. That's a different discussion. So I know they're in the house. I know they're in the house somewhere. I can't find them anywhere. And keep in mind, at the time, neither one of them could walk. Okay.
Wow.
Because neither one of them walked till a little bit later. Okay. And I walk in the kitchen and you can hear something. And I stop. And they'd gotten into the pantry and pulled the bifold doors closed. And gotten the graham crackers off the cabinet.
Yeah.
And gotten the package open.
Yeah.
And were just eating away.
Yeah.
They'd been in there probably 45 minutes because the whole box of graham crackers was empty. They were buddies. They knew they had to pull that door shut so nobody could see they were in there, but you could hear them munching. They did that. I walked in the kitchen the one time and Tim had Esther on his shoulder, getting up on the counter into the cookie jar. Can't walk. We can get those cookies off the counter. That's what we want in life. That's what we can have. So, but it works both ways. Like, Tim was so gracious to her and Esther was so ornery sometimes. He smashed his thumb in the car door, like everybody's probably done once in their lifetime. And she discovered for the next 2 or 3 weeks, if she wanted what Tim had, the toy, the food, whatever, she'd just grab his thumb.
Uh-oh.
Of course, he'd drop whatever he had. And she's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm just, she knew what she wanted. She was going to do everything she could to get it. They're very creative children. They might not have that high intelligence, but they're determined and they're going to figure out what they want and how they're going to get it.
So the determination.
Yes.
My cousin, one of the last trips we were up there, we got together, we had a bunch of food and like everybody brought some desserts or whatever. And there was somebody brought some brownies or something. My daughter Brooke will be able to tell the story better. But she went around, she had her dessert, what she was allowed to by her mom. But then she went to everybody and said, hey, I need a brownie. I didn't have one yet. She's making her out. And then she got the Brooke. And Brooke said, hey, I need a brownie. Are you allowed to have one? Just don't tell anybody. It'll be our secret. Like she was like trying to buddy up.
What we're gonna get.
She tried to buddy up to somebody to get to manipulate.
Yeah.
She would manipulate to get her Cokes and to get her cookies and brownies. But anyways, good memories, man.
Esther loved to have her picture taken. When my husband and I got married in 2003, we got those disposable cameras and like spread them out in the reception. At least a third of the pictures are Esther. Because she'd go up to everybody, take my picture. It's kind of fun. I have them now. I have all those pictures now.
Maybe God put people like that in our lives to help us with our perspective because we're prone towards pedal to the metal and just keep living for tomorrow and just keep pursuing. But we need that. They make you live in the moment.
They do.
They make
and
you
like
live
I said,
in the
they
moment.
make you pause
Yeah.
and slow down. She used to go, Esther, we have to hurry. She'd go, hurry? Yes, Esther, I need you to hurry. We got to get to church. We got to get to school. Hurry?
Yeah, what's that?
Yes, Esther, I need you to hurry. And then she'd go, hurry now? Yes, Esther, I need you to hurry. We got to get dressed. We got to go here. And she'd go, now? Like, yes, now.
You talked about your dad moving to Denver, lost his job. He ended up working in irrigation, landscaping, that kind of stuff. Your parents are divorced, and you're living with your dad. And you talked about, in the open, you talked about your work ethic that you got from your dad. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
You and your dad working side by side. Like, what was that like?
A lot of times.
Let's walk through that a little bit, because you attribute it to your success where you're at now in life. A lot of that kind of stuff. So let's it's a hard thing what you talked about, your parents being divorced, but those things shape us.
They do.
And a lot of those things that we wouldn't want to live back or we wouldn't choose for ourselves have a way of turning out the way we're built that is a positive. Not always does things turn out to be a positive, but in your story it did. So let's hit that one for a little while.
My dad's always been I guess typical red-blooded American man, like drive, got to do this, whatever they're focused on. Which is good. I think God wired them like that. They can stay very committed to one thing, which is good. He wanted to grow that business. I remember as kids, we used to pass out flyers on Saturday mornings, to all the neighborhoods trying to grow his business. And we used to have like a stack, and we'd have to get through the stack and then we'd be done. So I will admit, as children, sometimes we doubled up flyers indoors, Oh yeah, we're out, Dad. We're out of flyers. And then we'd work with Dad. So when we were little, we'd go get parts from the truck. We'd go get tools from the truck. We didn't do a lot of the manual labor. And then as we got older, Dad, without any hesitation, just put us to work. In fact, he'd drop us off at jobs and go to other jobs and come back. Once he knew we were capable, he made sure we were properly trained. One of the things I always love about my dad growing up is my dad didn't expect anything from you that he didn't do. If we're going to work till sundown and with a flashlight sometime, Dad's going to work till sundown with a flashlight sometime. Dad always set a good example of his work ethic. You got to get it done. It is a seasonal business. It's from like mid-March to mid-November, and you run. Run hard.
Because winter's coming. Got it.
And they shut them all off in the winter because in Colorado it does get cold. You don't have that here. But the systems will freeze. So you actually winterize them every fall.
Got it.
So we would open them in the spring. You'd work all summer on repairs and then close them in the fall, And he built quite a client base. I actually, when we were married, I was still helping my dad. He'd send me his customers and I put it all in an Excel database for him, and I'd print it and send it to him because my dad doesn't do computers, and he'd have his, computer record or his printout with him. He had at one time probably over 2,000 customers. He's just running hard, running big. He tried to train a couple guys to help him grow the business, and they'd work for him for like a year, and then they'd leave and start their own business. So,
that's the hard part. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just training your competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, my dad might have been a little difficult to work with. He expects a lot, so I can't say as an adult that I would have chosen to work with him. I don't know, but whatever. But we tell stories of, I remember as a teenager, I went on a job with him. I think I was 13 or 14, and we were busy. It was spring. We were trying to get all these jobs finished. We were working with flashlights at night, trying to just get these jobs finished. And my siblings hate this story, and I love to tell this story. When the guy made out the check at the end, he said to my dad, "Put an extra $50 on this. I want you to give it to your daughter." He's the hardest working teenager I've ever seen.
That's a compliment.
Yes. And I took it as I was just helping Dad. I was just doing what Dad wants to do,
Sure.
Whatever. Of course, I did go home and share the story with my siblings, and my sister still hates it because she's like, "Oh, I never got a tip." And I said, "Well, maybe you weren't working hard enough," which of course, breeds a lot of sibling rivalry,
Yeah.
But, Dad taught us to work hard. Dad also taught us to do the best that we could. My dad always put in the highest quality parts, put the best job into the labor. He did not cut corners. He never was the cheapest guy because he always put in high quality everything. I knew that.
I'm glad you said that because, man, that's so good. Because had he rationalized trying to putting a few extra bucks in his pocket, it would not have been good for him because he has children who are watching him.
That's right.
and it would have affected you. So here you have a man of integrity.
Yes.
And not only are you learning to work hard, but you're learning to have integrity, and your dad's just doing what your dad does.
Yep.
Had he compromised himself, that would have potentially damaged you and how you
Absolutely.
perceive. So,
Dad always used to tell us, "You're representing the family name.
mm,
Don't embarrass me." In a good way. He wasn't mean.
understood.
But you're also representing God. People know you're a Christian. And people need to know that, God wants the best we can give, the best we can give other people. You never know who you're going to encounter. You never know who's watching you. You never know that. And growing up in my dad's business, I learned a lot, like I said, about integrity, about really hard work. When my parents finalized the divorce, my dad had to pay my mom for half the house, half the value of his business, and pay her alimony and child support because she was a stay-at-home mom before they got divorced. So financially, that was a lot of money. We'll put it that way. Especially in retrospect, it wasn't like millions of dollars. So my dad had to work hard to make up for that. And also, he's the only one working, like I said. So I also learned things from my dad, like he had appendicitis. And I went to the hospital. This is before I could drive. I went to the hospital with him. He had the emergency surgery. And the next day, he was back at work because jobs had to be done.
That's it.
Probably not the most prudent decision for his health. He had to get it done. He had to.
How old is your dad now?
So my dad is 70. 70.
Yeah, so
78. He's 78.
That's indicative of that.
Yes.
That generation.
It is.
So a couple things. You said that your dad couldn't people would work for him for about a year and then start their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
That generation, and even myself, it took me a long time to figure this out, was that their way of thinking is the only right way to do it is my way.
Yes.
Because that's the way that works for me.
Yes.
And I didn't come to the conclusion here last 10 years that there's multiple ways to get it done. And as long as it gets done and it gets done right, what do I care if you did it this way or that way or zigzag it? I don't care as long as it gets done and it's production.
Yeah.
Everybody's mind is different. So I had a hard time retaining good employees in the very beginning because if you don't do it exactly just like me with intensity of me, then you must not care.
That's my dad. He used to always say, "I can't fire you, but you can't quit." Which is true. Now I worked very hard in my dad's business, but I never had to pay for anything either. I drove his vehicles. He didn't make me pay for gas or car insurance or anything like that. He put me through college, so I think I came out ahead. I didn't get paid much while I was working for him, but I think I came out ahead. And it was very much like everybody contributes. Everybody helps. It's a family unit. We all help when we can. And we ran the house that way. Like I said, I did a lot of the shopping and the cleaning and this, that, and the other, but everybody helped. Everybody pick up the vacuum if it needed or do the dishes if there are dishes in the sink. It was very much a team effort, I guess. My dad definitely taught me that. Don't ask of people what you're not willing to do. And I think that's another good lesson that, like you can't ask your guys to work 40 hours a week if you're working 20 hours a week. It's not really the way that, it doesn't make sense. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about my dad is that. And then my dad always, always, always made time for church events. We used to work, honestly, 60, 70-hour weeks in the summer because that's when you were busy. Always went to church on Sunday. Always went to youth activities. He always made sure I got off for teen camp. We went on missions trips, so we were busy and we worked really hard, but God was always a priority to my dad, always a priority. And I think that balance is sometimes what's missing in life, is we throw ourselves all into one thing, whether it be a secular job or a church ministry or a nonprofit, a secular nonprofit or whatever. And we forget that there's balance in life,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Staying balanced is hard, especially when you're busy.
It is hard. It's still hard. But
Michael, how deep are we?
Just over an hour.
Let's go ahead and take a break.
Sure.
When we come back, You're talking about how hard you worked. You're talking about your special needs siblings that you took care of, but you also had some health issues yourself. You had some degenerative in your
In my
knees,
knees.
some of your cartilage. So, so let's make that transition. Talking about some of the health challenges that you had, and we'll just kind of like continue to plot this
Sure.
thing out and work our way through it.
Okay.
You feel good?
Sounds good.
You're doing good, girl. All right. This part of the podcast is brought to you by Boots and Bubbles. This is a special one for me, man. This is my two girls, 15 and 17. Boots and Bubbles specialize in Southern style dirty sodas, an alternative to your regular old boring soda. If you're in the Lee County area and you want to book them for an event, find the link in the bio. In the meantime, let's get back to the show. All right, we're back.
We're back.
So we can't continue the conversation without talking about the health challenges that you had as a teenager. So we're talking about all this hard work that you did with your dad, taking care of your special needs siblings, all that. But you had some physical stuff going on with you as well during all this that you haven't even brought up yet.
Yeah.
So let's hit that layer.
Sure. So when I was 13, I started having pain in my knee, and I was born and raised to just push through, walk it off. You know that phrase. And it bothered me enough where my dad finally decided, let's go have a doctor look at it. Also being self-employed, my dad didn't have the greatest insurance. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the greatest. It was Kaiser, which has improved a lot, but back then it was an HMO, and it takes 4 months to get into a specialist and things. So finally got in, and they did an MRI, and they said, she seems to be missing parts of her cartilage. She literally has holes in her cartilage in her knee. Did she have an injury? Did she? And my dad said, well, she's always been rough and tumble, playing with the boys, working hard in the sprinklers, but no specific injury. So they scheduled me for a knee surgery at 14. They actually went in, and I had holes in my cartilage, and they determined that there's some autoimmune genetic something or other that I was born with where the cartilage actually peeled like an onion.
Wow.
So it would just eventually get down to bone. So I was bone on bone in parts of my knee. So it was actually one of the first people in the area to get, it was this new procedure. Well, the first knee surgery was go in, clean it up, look at it, see what it looks like, So January, I just turned 14. I had my first knee surgery, and thought, this will clean it up. This is, not a big deal. And they told my dad, I don't know, it looks kind of iffy in there, but we probably got most of it. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing how severe the issue was. Well, I went through very minimal rehab. Fun fact, 3 days after my surgery, my brother fell on my knee. That was a fun experience.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what are we doing? Anyway, and I started having pain again. So they did another MRI, and more of the cartilage had just eroded. So a year later, so it would be January when I had just turned 15, they did a pretty innovative new procedure. It's actually a cartilage transplant. They take cartilage from the outside of your knee and they put it where I had the hole. It's called an Oates procedure. So I had that done. And then a year after that, so I had a knee surgery every year for 5 years. So, and they were always in the winter, off season.
because your little worker can't be out of, I need you
Nope,
working,
you got to
girl.
just power through. And then my junior year in high school is when it was kind of the crazy year. That was actually the year that they did, it's called a lateral release. They actually cut through all the ligaments and tendons on the outside of the knee. And then you're in a brace while it heals. So it shifts over and it retracts everything. And I had that in January. I was non-weight bearing for 8 weeks. And then I was in the middle of rehab for that in April. And I somehow broke a little tiny bone in my hand. I don't know how I broke it. I was a very, very active teenager. And, I was working full time. So it could have been something I did at work. Thumb was bothering me. Thought I had sprained it. My dad took me to urgent care after work that night. And they said, it's broken. And my dad goes, it's broken? Because I didn't have a clear injury. So they casted me for 8 weeks because it's a hard to heal bone. And the next day I was in a car accident. A guy hit me and I fractured across my left hand. So from April until the end of May, I had my hands in casts, both hands in casts, 2 different sets of doctors. That was the fun part because this was medical insurance and this was car insurance. And, so that was the adventure that I had my junior year. And then my senior year, I was in another car accident. Somebody hit me and it damaged my right knee. So that's the one knee surgery I had that's related to an injury. And then my freshman year in college, I'd have another knee surgery 10 days before I went back for my second semester of school. So I was on crutches for the first 4.5 weeks of the semester at college.
Okay. That's a lot of health stuff.
That is a lot of health stuff.
So let's just kind of deconstruct this.
Sure.
How did you feel as a child going through all that? And then, like, looking back now, your perspective of where you are as an adult looking back, was there anything that you learned through that process? So let's look at it from two angles: in real time as a kid, and then looking back.
I think as a kid, at times I did get discouraged because I was like, oh my word, again, I have to do this again. And then other times I was like, this is a challenge. How fast can I bounce back this time? You know, you kind of go with it. I think a lot of times
your brain adapts.
It does.
Your brain, like, you got to figure it out. You can't just stop. Like, your brain adapts to certain things to make it make sense and to keep going.
And also, I think I've tried to always have the perspective or personality, and I don't want to give the illusion that I never struggle with things, but also I can't change it. My dad used to always say, you can't change what happens to you. You can't change what people do to you, but you can change how you react to them.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah.
So hold on a minute. I wonder how he came to that conclusion through events in his life that he had to figure out. So that's good. He
had a very abusive alcoholic dad.
Okay.
And I think he learned a lot about reaction. So
it's interesting how the so-called bad things that touch our lives, we can take those lessons learned and pass down good advice to our kids. I would say that's good advice that probably helped you.
It did. And I've tried to teach my kids that, you know, and also, like, my kids will get, this is jumping to now, but my kids will get frustrated with something that happens at school or with a friend or whatever. And they'll tell me the story. And you know what? Sometimes it's really bad stuff that happens to them. I mean, everybody has challenges in life. And I always say, I hear you and I agree with you. And that's a really bad situation, but you can't change it. You can change what you do with it, and you can change how you react to it, because we can't change what people do. We can't change, what people are going to say, what are they going to do, or what happens to us. I mean, I was in 2 car accidents 12 months apart in high school. Like, that's not fair. You know, you can play that game all the time, but what do you do with it? And like I said, I don't want to give the illusion that I always react properly, but I try to have that perspective.
We could probably stop the podcast right here with that.
Yeah.
Because that translates to, like, real life stuff. Yeah. And that's easier said than done. But when you can do that kind of stuff and keeps your mind in a good place, keeps you out of bitterness, keeps you out of that vortex that tries to suck us into a bad place, we probably need to clip that. It's good. That's powerful. Thank you for that one. That was good.
So as a teenager, I did struggle. a lot. I got really good at carrying things while on crutches. And I had a buddy in high school. He was my pastor's son that had reconstructive knee surgery. And we used to race each other down the sidewalk squares. We used to see who could go the longest without putting their feet down. Like, we just had fun with it, just have fun with it. I went through, I think, 7 sets of crutch tips during all my injuries.
Sounds about right. Because you don't slow down.
I don't slow down. It's kind of a bad habit.
Yeah.
However, God did teach me there are times you have to rest.
Let's hear it.
You just have to sit. You just have to sit and rest. And I am not good at that. I am a very driven go-getter, conquer the world, give me a challenge person. But, sometimes you have to stop and sit. And you asked me, looking back now, I think that's what God was trying to teach me. I'm a very stubborn person. I think it took a lot of tries.
Still strong. There's multi-layers to that.
Yeah.
But the one layer, still can be a continuation of still. Like, in my mind, links in a chain. Just because I was strong yesterday doesn't mean I'm strong today if I don't do the same thing that I did yesterday to continue 100%. Those links in those chain. I could go for a month without going to the gym, and you would never know. You would never know. I would know. But that's not being still strong.
Right.
Those things that I do daily, physically, mentally, spiritually, to stay where I'm supposed to be. So there's that aspect of to a continuation of.
Right.
The other aspect of still is what you just said. Being still and knowing that he is God.
It's one of my favorite
That
verses.
is so hard. And that takes the second word. That takes strength to be still, because every fiber of my being wants to get up and wants to be a call to action, wants to rock and roll with this thing. Let's get some production done. Let's do something. Being still is so hard.
Yeah.
But what I've learned in that stillness is it's just not being still and not thinking about anything. It's focusing on
It's important.
what's important. Focusing on him.
That's one of my favorite verses.
Shutting down my own internal voice and letting his voice minister and speak to me.
It's Psalm 46:10. Be still and know.
So you've learned that verse because you just talked about sometimes I have to rest and be still.
I think also when we can rest and be still, we're much more prone to talk to God. When we're busy doing what we want to do or doing it in our strength, we don't talk to God about it. We're doing it on our own. And, a lot of times we can do it on our own, but I've learned most of the time, if I let God help me, I can always do it better. I can always do it better. Or I can do it with less effort or with less trauma, And so sometimes if I am be still and know that I am God, if I can just take a step back, if I can sit and rest, if I can sit and think and pray, it always turns out better. And like I said, I'm a pretty stubborn person, so it took a lot of tries for God to teach me that. And I still have not perfected it. At 46, I still struggle with it. But the be still, like you said, is so powerful. And I think we forget about it.
When I was a kid, my dad's pastor, who he's been dead for several years now, he drowned in Costa Rica. But I remember hearing this. I was like 10 years old and I didn't understand it, but I understand it now. He was going through a trial and his wife said, do something. Do something. And he said, I am doing something. I'm doing nothing. And that's what that's being still. I am doing something. Because to not do something takes strength. Because when you want to go do it, I am doing something. I'm doing nothing. I didn't understand what that meant at 10 years old, but I do now.
The other thing that I think it taught me, and my cancer journey, which we'll talk about, has taught me that more. It's okay to ask people for help. Sometimes we're just like my dad. Love my dad. I've talked very highly of him on this podcast. My dad's really bad about asking for help sometimes or letting people help. And you know what? When we let people help, that helps us, but sometimes it helps them.
Sure.
Sometimes they need to do that. That's what they need to do. And I think having times of physical challenges, like being on crutches or having a knee surgery or, whatever, we have to let people help us. And that teaches us that, it's okay to let people help us. We don't always have to do everything.
Sure.
We don't always have to be independent. We can let go.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we talked about that one.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it, girl. Your cancer journey.
Yeah.
You were in college and you had a tickle in your throat.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So my junior year in college, it started right at the end of the semester. Actually, I had a crazy sore throat. I was trying to make it through to get home. You're like, it's a college student. I just have to get home. I finally broke down and went to the ER because back then, like, insurance wasn't as portable, whatever you want to call it. So I couldn't just go to a doctor. The ER doctor said, I'm not even going to do a strep test. That's the worst case of strep throat I've seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
So he put me on an antibiotic, which was the right thing to do. Felt better, finished up finals, went home, went back to work for my dad, busy. And about 10 days later, the sore throat felt like there was like a scratch in my throat, kind of came back. So I called my primary care. I also had growing up, I was very prone to strep throat and it never was gone with the first treatment. It always would take 2 treatments. And in fact, as a child, I often had to get penicillin injections. Those are fun to get rid of strep throat. So I called him and I told him the situation. He just filled another script. I didn't even have to come in, because he knew me. Well, it didn't go away. And also, this is like mid-May, end of May. He said, why don't you come in? Let me just look at you. So I came in. He's like, I don't see anything. You don't even look like you have a sore throat. Do you feel like there's something in your throat? And I said, yeah, I just feel like there's something in there. He goes, maybe it's just acid reflux. Had a lot of stress. You're a college student. There are other contributing stresses in my life, whatever. Let's put you on a PPI, Nexium. Let's just see if that gets rid of it. He said, just try it for 5 days. See what happens. So I took it for 5 days. Nothing. He goes, something's off. Let me schedule what's called an endoscopy, where they put a camera down your throat. Let's just look to see what it looks like. Maybe there's an irritation in there or something. I said, great. So this was on a Tuesday. It was scheduled for the following Monday. Well, as the week progressed, I couldn't even get food down. I could still drink liquids, but I couldn't even get food down. And I thought, well, that's really odd, but I've got the test scheduled next week. I'm not going to worry about it. So Friday morning, I wake up and I can't even get water down. Something's not right. This is a problem. So I called the office back. He called me right away. He goes, let's get you admitted to a hospital. We'll run some tests tomorrow instead of Monday. We got to get to the bottom of this. You can't even get fluids down. I got to get an IV in you. We got to figure this out. And this is another God story. He called every hospital in Denver, every hospital. Could not find a bed. I don't know what was going on, but could not find an open bed, except the last bed in all of Denver was at Porter Memorial Hospital, which is across town. It wasn't super convenient, but whatever, you do what you have to do. So I went, got admitted Friday night, started an IV. Saturday morning, they do the endoscopy and they sedate you. It's not full anesthesia, but they sedate you. I wake up, I'm back in my hospital room. I feel great. I'm eating soup because whatever they did, they fixed it. Life is great. Well, this doctor comes in. I don't know this doctor, but she traded on call with my normal doctor. She goes, well, I have some news for you. It's, kind of a little odd, difficult, whatever. I can't remember exactly what she said. And I said, well, whatever you did, you fixed it. I'm eating now. I'm eating this bowl of soup, thinking life is great, and she goes, well, we actually think we saw what the cause of it is. We think it's swollen lymph nodes pushing on your esophagus. We think you might have something called Hodgkin's disease.
So when you said the significance of there was no hospital beds, but the one hospital that you were in.
I'll get there. Yeah.
Got
There's
it.
a reason. So she said, we think you have Hodgkin's disease. And I'm like, what is that? 21-year-old, healthy, ready to get engaged, ready to finish my senior year in college, whatever. She goes, it's cancer. Suddenly I wasn't hungry anymore. Suddenly I can't control my emotions. She's like, and she was very gracious. I'd never met the woman in my life. I would not want to have to give somebody that news that I'd never met. She goes, can I do anything for you? And I said, well, you're going to have to call my dad because there's no way I'm going to get that out over the phone. She called my dad. They transferred me to the oncology floor from the general floor. And I met the on-call doctor who was just walking through. He's on call for oncology. He's the guy who's on that day. He works for the premier practice in all of Denver for Hodgkin's disease. And in fact, he has a very strong relationship with a doctor at Stanford, which is the top medical research facility for Hodgkin's lymphoma in the country. And next to Porter Memorial Hospital was Colorado Hematology Oncology, the biggest oncology hematology practice in all of Denver. And because I was in that hospital and he was the doctor on call, I got the best doctor in Denver that I could have ever gotten for my cancer. And just because that was the only bed that was left in all of Denver. Which is pretty cool the way that works.
So when you go down that rabbit hole, when you go down that rabbit hole, and
there's more of that rabbit hole too, but
I'm sure you've been there, but God puts things in our lives bigger than us.
Yes.
To make us dependent on him. And then he creates these random scenarios to prove that he's got us. And the purpose is to grow our faith so that we can share stories like this.
Yeah.
to make him look big, and it's that someone else is listening to this. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. That's how God works. It's crazy.
The other random God story associated with that weekend, my husband was a year ahead of me in college. We both went to the same college. That's how we met. And he was graduating with a degree in accounting. He interviewed at so many different firms. Let me back up. He lived out in South Central Pennsylvania. Of course, I was in Colorado.
Yeah.
He'd interviewed at firms in DC, which is an hour and a half from his house. He'd interviewed at banks, could not get a job. So he went back home, living with his parents, and worked a construction job just to make ends meet, trying to figure out what to do with life. So he didn't have a job. Well, also, the weekend I was diagnosed, that Saturday night, he just happened to be out in Indianapolis, Indiana, at his cousin's wedding, which was an hour and a half from my sister's house in South Bend, Indiana. And when I got that news on Saturday night, of course, my dad called my sister. They reached out to Kevin because Kevin was going to get together with them sometime and said, Josie has cancer. Do you want to drive out to Denver with me? Because I'm going to drive out to Denver and you can just come with me because you're right here. You have a suitcase packed of clothes.
Wow.
So because he was right there in Indianapolis, he could drive out, and he spent 2 weeks with me while I had the rest of my testing, which we'll talk about, and all that. And then he flew back home after 2 weeks, and 2 days later, he got a job.
It's crazy.
But if he would have just started a job, he couldn't have taken off 2 weeks, you know? So what didn't make sense in the time that he couldn't get a job made a lot of sense when I got that diagnosis.
And again, it goes back to why it's so important to be still sometimes. Just be still and accept that this is the situation, and you don't have to force anything. That's good. It's hard to do, though.
It is so hard to do.
All right, I'm gonna let you navigate this part of the story because
So this is Saturday night. They moved me to the oncology floor, and they said Hodgkin's is it's a pretty rare lymphoma. There's usually less than 9,000 cases in a year globally. It's a very rare lymphoma. It is the only good lymphoma in that it's pretty curable. However, it has to be treated very, very aggressively, and it's quick. It's a fast spreading situation. So they had a surgeon come talk to me, and I didn't even realize it, but I had a lymph node right here at my collarbone that was swollen, and you could feel it. I hadn't even noticed it. Nobody had noticed it. So the surgeon said, we can biopsy that one. Even though we think the affected area is more right here, we can biopsy this one. It's easy to get to. That's how you get the definitive diagnosis. So Sunday morning, like I said, everything's moving fast. Sunday morning, they do the biopsy. They take out the lymph node, and they said, we'll have the results in 2 days, and then we'll know, and we know where to go from there. So in the meantime, Kevin came out with my sister. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. This is June, so my dad's pretty busy still with his business, trying to navigate that. He had gotten remarried when I was 18, and her first husband died of cancer. So I think emotionally it was pretty trying for her, which I can't imagine going through that, So she's trying to be supportive, but I'm sure she's dealing with all of her own emotions. Her 3 boys are trying to deal with their emotions, and whatever. So Tuesday, I knew I was going to get the results. And I knew what the results were before they told me because my dad showed up in the middle of the day. My dad didn't quit work in the middle of the day for anything.
Your dad don't stop. I like your dad.
My dad does not stop.
I like that guy.
So I knew when my dad showed up.
You knew something's up.
I knew something was up. And I'm sure they had called him and said, this is the results. We'd like to share them with her. Can you make it, for lack of a better term? So he came and they said to me, this is what came back in the biopsy. You do have Hodgkin's lymphoma. I'd also done some other scans by then. They discovered it was behind my sternum and a little bit up here and then above my collarbone. So the thing that's unique about lymphomas is you can't just take out all the lymph nodes. That's your immune system. So you have to treat it and then, just see what happens from there. And like I said, because it's part of the immune system, it has to be treated pretty aggressively. So they want to get on top of it. They want to do things quickly and, you hit the ground running. So I had the diagnosis on Tuesday And they said, actually, if you're ready, the next step would be to do a bone marrow biopsy to make sure it has not spread to your bones. They do that in the upper crust of the hip. And so they do both hips at the same time. And the first side was fine. You feel a lot of pressure, but they had numbed it. Well, I also inherited this other thing from my dad where Novocaine doesn't always work. So when they went to do the second side, I could feel it. And I don't know if anybody gets squeamish. The needle for a bone marrow biopsy is about as big as a straw. So it's a pretty big needle they have to put in the crust of the hip. So I tried to numb it again and it still didn't work. And the fourth time I just looked at the doctor and I said, just do it.
You poor thing.
And he goes, are you serious? I said, just do it. Like, I'm so stressed out. I was drenched in sweat. I was all stressed out about it. He goes, okay, it's fast. You know, I knew it was going to be fast. I tell people I've had 5 knee surgeries. I've actually had 2 hip surgeries.
Yeah.
I've had 2 C-sections. And that bone marrow biopsy is the most painful thing I've ever had. They go into the crest of your hip, which is pretty strong. So I did that.
It's funny, but here's the thing. It's funny how your brain can adapt when it has to get it done. Like,
well, I knew
I can't imagine that.
Yeah. But in the moment, you just...
But in the moment, there's no way out. So we got to go through it.
They actually sedate people now most of the time for bone marrow biopsies, which I'm glad they do because it's an experience.
Wow.
I love watching medical shows. I cannot watch that.
I don't blame you.
Whenever they do that, I have to change the channel. My husband's like, but you've done that. And I said, yeah, that's why I can't watch that.
Wow.
So they did that Tuesday.
And here's another thing.
Yeah.
You women, you guys are built for pain. Like,
yeah, we kind of are.
I'm so glad God made you guys give birth and not us, because there would be no population. You girls are built to withstand some pain. You guys got a high pain tolerance.
Yes, we do.
And I applaud all of you. My goodness, man.
I'm really good with pain if I know there's a definitive end. Like, you know, it's going to last for the 2 minutes of the bone marrow biopsy, or it's going to last for your 6 weeks in recovery. It's going to last. When it's undefined, that's when I struggle with pain. But I don't know, sometimes it gets me in trouble because I probably should listen to my body more. So they did the biopsy Tuesday. I had another couple tests Wednesday and Thursday. I had a series of scans. They wanted to make sure my heart was healthy. They did make sure my lungs were good. I did, fun fact, the colonoscopy prep, you know, that people do. I did that 3 times in 1 week because I would do a test and then they'd have to clear out my digestive system for another test. And then so I'm
so that process, because I did it once because I'm 50, and so I found out you're supposed to start paying attention to that stuff. So I had it done once. And you're talking about where you drink the liquid, like you can't eat, you drink the liquid, and it's just your stomach.
You're in the bathroom
your
constantly.
stomach is just. That was hard to do.
Yes.
Well, also the taste of that stuff, like it was hard to get that down.
Yes. Well, after cancer, I had CT scans every 3 months for 3 years. And you have to drink a barium contrast for that type of CT scan. I can drink anything. I can eat anything. My kids are always like, Mom, how can you? I'm like, not a big deal. It was really great when we work with teenagers because you know how they make the concoction drinks and then they dare each other? These teenage guys were doing it. They'd put like honey and hot sauce and they'd put like 8 or 10 things in this thing of soda and they're all daring each other. And they said, Miss Josie, what about you? I said, I'll drink it. What do you give me? And they're like, you won't drink that. And I said, oh, just you watch me. Yeah. And I just drank it down and I could see the one guy out of the corner of my eye and he goes, and I was like, this is nothing. This is nothing compared to stuff. That's so I had more scans. They discharged me on Thursday. So I'd been in the hospital almost a week. And then on Friday, I went to the oncologist's office and did prep work. The following Tuesday, I got a port in. The chemo that I had, fun fact with the chemo I had, they can't put it in down here because your vein walls are too thin. It will eat through your vein walls. So you either get a chest port, or I was lucky enough to get an arm port. It goes in the arm. It also gives them really good access, IV access. So I had that done on Tuesday, and I started chemo the next Wednesday. So
So
between
this moved fast.
10 days.
Wow.
And in those 10 days,
So
go ahead.
again, I just have to digest this and try to fit my feet in your shoes.
Yeah,
That 10 days sounds like a whirlwind to me.
it was.
Did you ever, in the middle of it, have disbelief or feel like this is a dream or this isn't really happening to me? Do you ever feel like this is like, where am I at? Like
How did I get here?
how did I get here?
And I
What's life look for me going out?
It's very sobering at 21
Yeah.
to look at your mortality. And I think we all know we're going to die. I mean, we know that. That's obvious. But you don't think about that at 21.
No.
And I was at a stage in my life where I was about ready to finish my senior year in college. I was about ready to get engaged. I was about ready to move on with start the rest of my life, and I did struggle with things like, everybody wants to say, oh, I handled it well. I did have times when I struggled. I questioned God, I'll admit it, because I'm like, God, why me? Like, what did I do? What have I done? I have all these plans, and now I have to just wait again. Now I have to just be patient again. Like, why me? And I remember even thinking, like, why not one of my friends at college who's the same age? Like, they're not ready to get married. They're not ready to, you know what I'm saying? And not that I would wish that on anybody, but I did struggle. I'm like, what in the world? Like, I'm ready to start my life. And okay, now you got to just wait. And my husband and I, we were not engaged yet, but we were pretty close. We had to make decisions like, are we going to try and preserve my fertility? Are we going to, because chemo it's extremely toxic. The chemo that I had, 3 of the 4 are probably one of the strongest ones that you can get. And that's what causes the long-term health issues that I have. But they need that to discover or to treat the cancer.
How many chemo treatments did you have?
So I had 4 different chemo drugs every treatment, and I had 6 treatments. I had it every 2 weeks. You'd go in on a Wednesday. It was about a 3.5-hour infusion. And then I'd start to feel pretty cruddy that night through Sunday, Monday. And then you'd have about a good week where you start to recover. And then you go back again,
Was there ever a time you went in for chemo you just didn't want to go?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've heard stories like
As a mental battle.
My father-in-law, he died of cancer. My wife was his caregiver. She took him to all his treatments.
You have to knowingly poison yourself to get better for the future.
He would beg her towards the end, please don't make me do this. And she got to wheel him in there.
Yeah.
I got another friend I'm having on the podcast. He talks about his chemo treatments. He talks about the 4th man in the fire. He said, because Keith, I did not want to do this. Like it was like, please don't. It was like going to torture every day. So I was just curious, like, what did that feel like? After you felt it the first time, knowing I got to go 6 more times, like, how did your brain adapt? Like, how did you gear up for battle to get in there and get it done?
I tell people I don't think I could ever do chemotherapy again unless I knew that there was a fairly positive outcome on the other side. And honestly, it's a very personal choice that when people are diagnosed with cancer, if they do treatment or not. And the people that are in their 70s, 80s, they've lived a full life. Man, I get that choice not to do it.
Really?
I do. And I'm not saying it's a right or wrong choice because it's a very, very, very personal choice. But it was a pretty miserable 3 or 4 months cancer treatment. When I would have treatment on Wednesday, between Wednesday and Sunday or Monday, I would probably sleep 19, 20 hours a day, huge gaps in my memory, slept on the bathroom floor 4 or 5 times. And you make associations with things. I'm one of the people that I could taste the chemo, which is kind of weird. And so the oncology nurses, which were amazing, I commend them so much for what they do. We're like, well, you can bring anything you want in. They didn't care if you ate or drank. But they said, just to warn you, whatever you bring in, you might not ever be able to have again. So I tried to pick things that were like really strong, but I wasn't super attached to them. So this day, I cannot have hot tamales, like the candies. I cannot have lemon heads. And I don't even like most things lemon in general, because it's that, honestly, that association. And to this day, it's now been 25 years. It's 25 years this year.
Wow.
When I get an IV for the 73 medical procedures I have all the time, you have to warn me before you flush it, because I will vomit on the spot from that taste, that association, this long out.
Wow.
This long out. The body does make its own, they talk about muscle memory.
Yeah.
There's other memories. Like you feel it. And it does become a very, very, very mental battle. It's strong. You kind of get to know the guys that sit next to you for infusion, because you usually end up the same time. You get to know the nurses. You get to know the people who draw your labs. You get to know stuff like that. But it is a journey. And I think one of the things that was also really hard for me was, this was before Facebook and support groups and whatever. I didn't know anybody at 21 who had cancer. I didn't know anybody. Cancer is what old people got, or like, not to be judgmental, but people who made poor life choices, later on in life and things. And I was like, I don't know a single 21-year-old that had cancer. And then, of course, I lost my hair. That was very emotional for me. It is a journey.
The Bible talks about a woman's hair being her glory, like a woman's identity in her hair. Those two things are connected.
Yep.
Like a man's strength is his identity. A woman's beauty in her hair, which is her beauty. Her
I had
glory.
long hair like this. I've always had long hair my whole life. And I lost all of it, which was also very hard, because I wanted to get married the next year. Can't grow your hair that fast in 1 year.
Was this probably the lowest point in your life? This point?
Probably.
You always said you're pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
Are you still
But
optimistic?
I struggled.
You struggled?
I struggled.
Can we just talk about those struggles?
Yeah.
Let's just hit a few of them.
I felt very lonely,
Okay, I can see that.
My husband was out in Pennsylvania. I was out in Colorado. And this is pre-cell phone era, so we couldn't talk all the time.
Got it.
I felt very isolated. I felt like my whole life was put on hold.
Okay.
And that was very, very hard for me, because I had plans. I had things I wanted to do.
Sure. Every 21-year-old does.
My dad, when he got remarried, it was how do I say this diplomatically? A quick decision. And so families were thrown together, and two strong personalities were thrown together. And the first couple of years of their marriage was not super fun for anybody. We'll put it that way. I was ready to be done with that. I was ready to move on and not have to deal with trauma. I had a lot of trauma as a teenager with my parents' divorce, and then my other health issues and whatever. And I did have moments of like, why me? Like, haven't I done enough? Haven't I struggled enough? Haven't I suffered enough? Like, why me? Like, and I did struggle with that. And I did. And you come back to the promises of God. And I come back to, I looked at Job. I looked at Joseph. I looked at.
You're looking for answers.
Yeah. And I just was like, I don't get it, God. Like, and I didn't question God in like, you hate me and you're not in control. I questioned God in, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Like, I don't know why you have me doing this, and I think sometimes we get in the middle of trials, we're like, okay, what do you want me to learn so I can be done with this?
Yeah.
I had that moment. I had a man say something to me that, in the church, you talk about sometimes the church can be judgmental. I think the church is amazing and I love my church, but sometimes people, I think, speak their mind when they shouldn't, if that makes sense. I had a man come up to me in the middle of my treatment and say, you must have a really big sin in your life if God gave you cancer at 21.
Yeah. And
that makes you evaluate things, do I?
Here's my judgmental coming out. I'm glad I don't know that guy.
Yeah.
Because if I had known him and you, that guy he'd be holding his mouth. He'd be holding his mouth.
The comment caught me so off guard that I literally took a step back And I did evaluate. And, maybe I did have sin in my life. I don't know. I don't feel like I did. I think God gives suffering for a variety of reasons, but I did struggle. And the sicker I got with the chemo, the more I struggled.
Can I make another interjection?
Yes.
In the middle of suffering, God's teaching us something.
He's trying, at least. Whether
But
we learn
also
or not.
in the middle of suffering, there's a warfare going on behind the scenes. You mentioned Job.
Yeah.
There was a conversation between God and the evil one.
Yeah.
And in suffering that's intended for our good and God's glory, there can be those satanic assaults against us where someone comes across and say, you must have a really big sin in your life.
Yeah.
Be careful what you talk about because you don't know your own heart.
Right.
You don't know if this is my own thought, God, the Holy Spirit's thought,
right,
or a satanic interjection that I'm being used as a pawn of the evil one to, you know what I mean? So be real careful with when someone's going through stuff, the words that come out of your mouth.
Right.
It happened with Job, all those guys sitting around there, everybody's trying to figure him out and fix it.
Well,
They all should have just kept their mouth shut.
Yeah, they should have.
So,
but we all try to fix, right? Yeah.
I'm glad we weren't friends back then because I would have been in jail probably. I just don't get people sometimes.
I don't either. Church is one of those places where it's given me so much strength and so many relationships and so much love. But yes, there are a couple people in church and I know you did a podcast on recently, and one of the things you said is, God didn't hurt you and the church didn't hurt you. It's individuals, and that's true. That's very true. But sometimes I do look at what people say and go, really?
Yeah,
did you think about that before you said
that person was not a representation of God.
I would agree.
That was something totally different.
I would agree.
Yeah.
In the moment, I did evaluate and struggle. I think everybody struggles when they go through times of suffering in different levels. I think they do. And I think it causes us to reevaluate our relationship with God, our relationship with others. And I can tell you, cancer at 21 taught me a lot about what's important in my life. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? What matters? Like what really matters?
When trying times hit me, my first question is, what did I do wrong?
Yes.
I don't question God. That's not in me to question God.
Mm-hmm.
I question myself.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do wrong? So that was...
My question is always, how can I not make it happen again?
Yeah. Especially going through the kind of pain you went through.
How can we not do this again? I don't want to do this again. Yeah.
Can we make another little transition?
Sure.
You keep hitting around, you had a boyfriend and your husband and stuff, but in the middle of suffering, your lowest point, you found...
I did.
The best thing. You found, actually, I would call this true love.
I would agree with that.
You found true love
in
the middle of
suffering. My husband has loved me through more things than... We met my second week in college. He's a year ahead of me. He was a roommate with a friend of mine from church. So we both attended a college. I don't mind. It's Pensacola Christian College. Student body's like 4,000 students, so you meet lots of people, but you're not guaranteed to meet the right person. He was roommates with Kevin. He brought Kevin to dinner and I'd brought friends. You do things in herds at Christian colleges. And I met Kevin and I remember thinking, he's kind of a neat guy, I kind of like him, and we did stuff in groups all first semester. And then over Christmas break, he purposely did not have any communication. He had decided he wanted to see how he felt, instead of like getting caught in the moment.
What a moron.
So I know.
What a moron. I'm going to slap him when he gets back.
You can tell him that was
when
not
he gets back from Frisbee golf or whatever he's doing. I'm going to say, man, what's wrong with you, dude? What do you have to think about?
So we came back after Christmas break, and he's so funny. He wanted to call my dad to get permission. So he asked for my dad's number. And then the man makes me wait. And I'm like, did he call? Did he not call? Did he ask my dad? Did my dad say no? Did he whatever? He waited a whole 2.5 weeks. And I was like, because I'm not a very patient person sometimes. So then he finally, said, I called your dad, got permission. I'd like to start officially dating you. So we started dating. And I got really nervous to meet his parents because his parents were coming down for his sister's graduation. His sister was graduating that year, and super nervous to meet his parents, met his parents that May. And then we dated all through college. He graduated a year ahead of me and, year and a half because I had to wait the extra semester. And I think we knew probably 8 or 10 months in that this was probably the one. I actually had never dated anybody else. Kevin is my one and only, which is pretty cool. He'd kind of dated this other girl. His mother wasn't super fond of her, so that, nipped that in the bud, whatever. And so it was nice because we could fully do the dating, love, sharing heart, whatever you want to call it, with each other relationship. It was a long time. I don't recommend that long of dating and engagements. However, life is what you get. So we were close to getting engaged. He actually, it's a side story. I think we started to tell you this yesterday and got interrupted. His senior year, my junior year, that Christmas, he wanted to propose to me so we could spend a semester together before he graduated, and then we'd have my year. He flew out to Colorado because he used to come out and see me at Christmas, and he went for a drive with my dad, and he asked my dad, and they come back and
listen. If I was your dad, I'd say you owe me 5 sprinkler systems for my daughter. Like I would have negotiated some work. I would have negotiated some work out of him while he was in here. Let me see you put some sprinklers in, boy.
So he comes back, and we all know what's going on this conversation.
Yeah.
Kevin won't make eye contact with me. And my dad's like, let's go for a drive. And I'm like, now what's going on? We've been dating and we've had his permission to date and what's going on? So we go, as my dad always does, it was a multitasking. We went to wash the vehicle.
Yeah.
And we're talking while we wash the vehicle. And he goes, Kevin asked if you guys could get engaged. He said, I want you to wait. And I'm like, do you not want me to marry him? Do you not like him? I'm trying to go through this whole list. And he's like, no. He said, I think Kevin's a great guy. I want you guys to have a semester apart to make sure. I don't want you to just be getting married because you're the only ones that you've been together and whatever. And I remember I was very angry at my father. And Kevin and I were both hurt. We struggled with that, but we very much wanted my dad's blessing. And so we waited. So we did not get engaged. So we had that last semester. And then that summer is when I got diagnosed with cancer. Well, my dad also being the way he is, he's like, well, you can't get engaged yet, but you can plan the wedding. I'll let you start that, which doesn't make sense. But to him, it did, So I was with my bridesmaids and we were starting to reserve the church and whatever. And I'd actually I went to David's Bridal with my bridesmaids to pick out the dresses. And they're like, while you're here, why don't you try on dresses? I'm like, no, I don't want to try on dresses. We're here for you. I'm not even engaged yet. And they're like, just try on dresses. I was like, fine. Second dress I tried on, I found it. But they had to order, how it is. Wouldn't you know that wedding dress came in the day before I went to the hospital?
Wow.
What a cool promise. You know what I'm saying? So when Kevin came out when I got diagnosed and we made a lot of life decisions in those 10 days, we were not engaged, but we were virtually engaged.
You were secretly engaged. I know you did. You probably did like you guys did like Braveheart on the moonlight. All right, we're engaged. Here's your ring. Hide it in your pocket for Dad sees it.
I will tell you though that I did chemo July, August, September, radiation October into November. And then I flew out to Maryland at Christmas time to spend some time with him. Yeah. And he proposed to me. And I have the picture. My hair had just started coming back in. Yeah. And I will always be grateful for the love that he has given me because I felt so broken. And I had a crazy family backstory, and I was this fiercely independent, unsubmissive woman. And yet, he did not hesitate. Never once hesitated It never once, at least what he told me, maybe he'd tell you something different. But his love never changed. And, you know, since we got married, I have had more than my fair share of health issues. We'll probably get into them. I have severe cardiac damage from the chemo. I have a pacemaker, 100% pacemaker dependent, 100%. You know, I've developed problems with my thyroid. I've had skin cancer removed 4 times. I have another cardiac issue that I now deal with, which is an inflammation of the lining around the heart. I had 2 hip surgeries when we'd been married 5 years because my growth plate closed wrong as a teenager. I mean, you name it, my poor husband has had to deal with it. And his love has never changed for me. And to me, he shows Christ's love and Christ's example. And he is, I know it's such a cliche, but he is my rock. He is a lot of my strength is Kevin. And I will always be grateful for that. I couldn't do life without him.
It makes the words in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, bring out a whole new meaning.
Yes.
Because this man knew what he was getting into.
Before it started.
He could have backed out.
He could have.
He could have said, I didn't sign up for this. Sorry, we'll be friends.
Yep.
He could have backed out. But that man knew what he was getting into. And he chose you. And that's why you're here, because you posted a freaking picture of that. And his hair was longer than yours.
It was.
And it just struck me so hard.
Yeah.
Because that's love, man.
That is. And
that's why I messaged you, say, hey, I got to have you on. I got to hear this story.
Yeah.
So
he's always been there. He's always, and it was neat because I got to have a, I guess, testimony when I was still going through follow-up treatment. They would still keep track of my labs, my lab values and things. And when I showed up at the oncologist office with an engagement ring, all the nurses cried. And they said, you don't understand. When people go through cancer is when spouses leave. That's not when people get engaged.
Wow.
And it gave me an opportunity to talk about Christ's love and love for others. And especially coming from the background where my parents got divorced, and then, you know, other issues, like I will always be grateful for my marriage to my husband. And we do life together, and I love it. I love that I get to spend the rest of my life with him. And he does balance me out so well. And he got me really good. He's Mr. Healthy. The man's been on 3 antibiotics his whole life. He's never been sick. And he finally got me when he had shoulder surgery 2 years ago. I actually was like kind of nervous about it because he's never had health issues. I was nervous. I was apprehensive. And I wasn't worried about the doctor doing something wrong or whatever. I was worried about him like reacting to the anesthesia or, you know, because that happens. And I had this almost like mini panic attack in the waiting room while he was having the surgery. And then he comes out of the surgery and he comes home and I said, I had to admit I was a little nervous. I said I was just kind of scared and nervous. And he goes, yeah, it's not like I had something done to a major organ or anything. I said, hey, that is not fair. Because I've had the pacemaker put in and then it's been replaced twice because the batteries only last long enough. And then I've had...
So how do they replace it?
They take the whole device out. It's right under the skin right here.
Yeah.
They create a pocket between the muscle and the fascia, and the pacemaker sits in there.
Wow, that's cool.
So when they have to replace
Science is amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing.
Wow.
I would not be here without modern science.
Wow.
My heart was pretty broken.
Really?
So he's been through the 4 chemo drugs that I had. One of them is called adriamycin, and it is the color of red Kool-Aid. They call it the Red Devil. That is the nickname for it. Its number 1 side effect is cardiac damage. That's just the way it is. Mine showed up. So I finished treatment in the end of 2001, went back to college in 2002, and then we got married in January of 2003. I started having like higher heart rate. I was just really tired and, you know, trying to fix it. And I'd moved from Denver to Pennsylvania. And so my oncologist out there that I was doing follow-up with said, I think you should just go see a cardiologist, you know? So I went to a cardiologist and they determined I had what's called AV node tachycardia, which is a super fast heart rate. When I would like get up and walk across the room, my heart rate would jump over 200. I had what was called re-entry pattern. So in the heart, between the atrium and the ventricle, you have what's called the AV node. And so the SA node sits here, that the heart beats and it tells the atrium to beat, and then it sends the signal down and it tells the ventricle to beat. You have one spot that's supposed to be open. My chemo ate holes in the AV node, so it would send the signal down and send it back up and send it down and back up. So it's what they call re-entry tachycardia. And when they tried to fix it, that's another God story, the cardiologist, I'll get to in a second. I had what's called the ring of fire. They couldn't get them all. So they completely scar the AV node so it's non-functional. And the pacemaker communicates between the two.
Wow.
My heart was so broken, for lack of a better term. You pull all this data off the pacemaker. I go see the cardiologist every 6 months and they pull all this data off and they can tell you all this stuff. I regularly would have episodes where without a pacemaker, my heart was over 300. So I'm very grateful for modern medicine.
So as someone who does a lot of fitness, and I know what heart rate stuff is, like zone 2, that's when you're burning fat. Zone 3, zone 5 is when you're maxed out.
Yep.
My zone 5 is like 160, 170. That's my zone 5. That's when I'm just sucking wind and just want to lay down and die.
So imagine how tired you would be if your heart was over 300.
And you're doing 300. Like, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. So the pacemaker communicates between the atrium and the ventricle, and it keeps my heart in certain. So my heart rate can't go above 165, and it can't go below 55. So it keeps it in a range.
That's a healthy range.
For me, it is. Yeah. Normally, the bottom number is 60, but my heart rate, I think because I did all that work with my dad growing up, and I lived in Colorado, which is higher elevation, my resting heart rate is closer to 55. So they bumped it down for me. So, but it doesn't get above 165. They have an upper limit on it. So, just have to moderate myself. It works.
I got a question here.
Sure.
You're a very driven person.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about you being forced to be still.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about control versus surrender? Like during all this, because there seems to be this dynamic.
Yeah.
Or there's a lesson here that's trying to be taught, it seems like. And what does control and surrender mean to you through where you're sitting at right now, just looking back at life?
Yeah.
That's a deep one, and I don't even know what the answer is, but
I think we're given things that we can control.
okay.
I think we're given, we can control our effort.
Okay.
We can control our reactions, like we talked about.
Yes.
We can control our perspective. You can shift your perspective. But I ultimately think that you have to surrender to God, because I can control all I want, but I can't control God. And I can't control what God has for my life. My plan for my life was wildly different than what I had. I was never going to move out of Colorado. Certainly wouldn't have had cancer. I was going to have 5 kids. I was going to marry a youth pastor because I love teenagers. I, going to marry, I think we all have the 6'1", bright blue eyes or whatever image. I was going to do that. My life is nothing different than what I would have planned. But I couldn't enjoy the life that I have if I wouldn't have surrendered to God. And I think I struggle with wanting to take control back and not surrender. And I think they work together, and I think they ebb and flow. I think sometimes I want all the control and I don't have any surrender. But if I give up control and surrender to God, is when He can really do what He wants to in my life and the plan that He has for me. And I love, and I can't remember the reference, but it talks about God has a plan for us. And God, the plans that I have for you, I can't remember it off the top of my head.
On the tip of my tongue too. Look that up. That's what my boy, that's what my Jamie is. That's what my Jamie's here for.
It's in Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah, I think 31. But another passage in Jeremiah that I love is, call unto me and I will answer thee and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. We don't even know the things that God has for us. We can't even imagine them. We can't even plan them. So if I'm willing to let go of control and surrender, that's when I can get that. But the harder I hold on to control, now, like I said, there are things we can control and that we have to control. I have to control my emotions. I have to control my perspective. I have to control my focus. I have to control whatever. But I have to surrender to God's will for my life and God's plan for my life. For I know the thoughts that I have towards you, plans of, now it's not going to come to me either.
That's
On the spot.
That's all right. Might go find it.
So if I'm willing to surrender, now that also applies in human, okay? I can control everything. I want the vacuum lines on my carpet to be a certain way, and I want my house to be cleaned this certain way, and I want only these groceries at the store, and I only want these meals, and I want my kids' hair to always look like this. Or I can say, you know what? Physically, I can't. I don't have that in me. So I have to let go of the fact that maybe my house is not spotless, or maybe we go to a restaurant that my family wants instead of what I want. Or, sometimes we have to let go of that control because we can't do it in our physical strength. And that's hard. That's really hard for me because I think everybody likes control. I think everybody likes the way that they want to do things. But when you physically can't, you have to let go.
And you were brought to that point.
Yeah.
So here's how I can relate. I try to control everything. And what happens when I try to control everything and the things I'm trying to control are working against me, I get frustrated and angry, and I lose my perspective. And you mentioned the lines in the carpet.
Is that
If
you?
I want the lines in the carpet to look a certain way and they're not happening, it's a very big problem for me. But you know what? It's just freaking carpet, and it's just lines.
Doesn't matter. It goes back to the doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So when you talk about we talked about balance earlier.
Yeah.
This is another thing that we need to keep in balance. And I struggle because there are things that I'm responsible for, and I want to be responsible for the things that God has called me to be responsible
Absolutely.
for, that are my responsibility. But I don't want the things that aren't my responsibility, because when I try to take those on, I am not a happy person, because those are things that God's meant to carry, not me. So trying to find my lane, my lane and God's lane. Let's just look at it that way. Trying to find my lane and God's lane.
Yeah.
I try to have a wide lane, and that was helpful. Like personally, how you broke it down helped me see it in a way that I hadn't been able to communicate it before.
I also think it applies in our relationships with others. If we control everything, we can't learn from other people, and we can't appreciate a different perspective.
Did you
We don't
find that
allow it.
verse?
I mean, I have Jeremiah 31, but I mean, there's 38 verses here. I'm not sure exactly which one she's looking for.
It could be. What do you have?
I can put it on the screen.
Put it on the screen, we'll find it. While we're doing that, okay. This is a good one. Redefine strength. I can't read that.
I can. You're good. Build you. Let's see, I might be remembering the wrong passage. No, keep going. No. Probably telling you the wrong reference, and that's not helping anybody.
It's all right. We'll find
But
it.
it's in there somewhere. Bible's a big place sometimes. Redefining strength.
Strength redefined. So when you have a healthy body, you can do stuff, and now you've got cartilage that's wore out. Now you had a heart that's diminished.
Yeah.
You have to still be strong. You have to still serve your purpose. but it's not to the capacity that it was before. So, strength redefined. What does that mean to you?
I think one of the things that I've tried to evaluate with strength is we always think about strength as physical strength. You know, the big strong man, the big strong building, the powerful car, the whatever. But you know, there's also mental strength, there's emotional strength, and there's spiritual strength. And I think we need all of them. And I think often if we're lacking in one, we can find it in another one, or they can blend together. You know, I have found in times when I have to be still and I have to think and I have to rest, I can be strong in other ways. I can put my mind to work. I have a very thinking job as a financial planner. It's not a physical job. And I miss the physical activity of working with my dad and being outdoors. But I have a very mental job now. I can also use my mind, the mental strength to pray, to send a text to somebody else and ask how they're doing, to think about how I might do things differently or the future plans or whatever. The emotional strength, I think, ebbs and flows in my life, especially as a woman. We are very emotional creatures. And sometimes emotional strength is staying even, you know, and not getting wildly angry or super emotional or dwelling in the sadness. There's that emotional strength. And then, of course, you have the spiritual strength. And that goes back to what we just talked about, the control and surrender. And I think the more that we can rely our spiritual strength on the foundation of the Bible, because that doesn't change, and the foundation of God, it gives us strength as well. You know, strength is derived by a good foundation, whether it be a physical stamina or a building or whatever, but so are the other strengths. They're also derived from a good foundation. And I think being strong is so much more than physical strength. And especially when it's taken away, like it was with me, you have to find the other strength. And some days I'm better than others. Like some days I don't feel strong at all. Some days I feel very weak and useless or a failure, you know, or whatever. I think we all go through those days. But if you can stay consistent and strong in all the facets of your area of your life, that's where you get strength from, is the foundation. So you always have to have the right foundation. But I don't know, that's kind of a rambling.
No, it was good. And I'm digesting what you're saying.
Yeah.
When I started my fitness journey, the purpose was to be physically strong and capable for my loved ones.
Which is a great goal.
When my grandkids want to go do something, for me not to have to take an inhaler, like for me to be able, let's get it. Like to be,
But you can't keep up with them.
I want to be the fun grandpa.
Yeah.
I want to be like, so that was my purpose, to be physically strong. If I got 5 daughters, if I got to throw down on some boy, I'm just being honest. Like
You wouldn't be able to do it.
then I can do it. You know what I mean? I can back it up. When I started working on my physical strength, there was a question in my mind: what's your spiritual soldier look like?
Yeah.
What's the one that we can't see?
Yeah.
Like this is the easy part. The physical is the easy part. What's the spiritual look like? And I began to have thoughts that I hadn't had before. Like I need to strengthen the inward man, the spiritual man. And when I started trying to strengthen that inward man, when I realized how weak he was.
Yeah.
That inward man needs God's word daily.
Absolutely.
That inward man needs to stay in a constant state of prayerfulness.
Yeah.
Like that inward man. And you can't separate the physical. They're all our being.
Right.
We're made up of
Right.
what you can't see and what you can see, but they're connected. They're not separated, they're connected.
Right.
So when I started like working on the one, I became aware of the other.
Absolutely.
And then emotional. Like I am such a weak emotional person. Like if things don't go my way, I'm gonna throw a fit like a baby.
Yeah.
And that's not strength. That's weakness.
Mhm. It is.
So I'm like,
And if your emotions rule you, you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
No.
So anyway, someone that constantly loses their temper, or that's not strength.
Mhm.
That's weak. That's actually a weakness. Like true strength is being still, being quiet.
Yeah.
Is that your verse there? Proverbs 19:21? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails.
Might not be the exact verse that
Yeah,
you're
but it's
looking
the
for,
same
but it's
genre.
same
It's the same
topic.
thought, so we can
Same
use it.
thought. So, any other thoughts under that heading? Strength redefined. I think you hit it pretty well.
I think it also goes back to what you mentioned earlier a little bit, where, and you kind of just mentioned it here, it takes daily exercise, for lack of a better term, to keep all that strength up, you know? And like you mentioned, reading the Bible, praying every day,
Yeah.
along with, your physical strength, along with emotional strength, along with mental strength. And like you mentioned earlier, if we neglect it for a short period of time, most people aren't going to notice, but then you'll notice.
Then you'll notice.
Yeah. And I think that's why it is a consistent faith, like it's an act of faith, you just have to keep doing it. But
One thing when we talked earlier in the week, you talked about your daughters,
mhm.
and you are a mother. There's something to be said for motherhood. Like,
Yeah.
my identity is a dad, a husband, and now a grandfather. That's like my identity.
Yes.
And I think a woman's identity
Certainly.
is a mother. Like, that's
Mhm.
like the most natural thing. Like,
Mhm.
mama bear is a real thing.
Yeah.
All right. So your identity. So when you talk about motherhood and your legacy, what's that wheelhouse look like with what you've learned in your journey
Mm-hmm.
that got you here? Now you have two girls that are, listen, they're on the
Teenagers.
cusp of going out on their own. They're 13 and 16. That's going to come quick.
I know.
Some boy's going to come knocking. Some boy's going to come knocking on the
We're
door.
going to have to talk to their daddy about that one. He's fiercely protective of them.
When I asked my wife to marry me, I didn't ask my father-in-law. I just asked her. I didn't know I was supposed to. Anyway, she showed him the ring, and he wanted to take me on the front yard and fight me. And I did not want to go outside with that guy.
And you're like,
He meant it too. Michael asked me if it was okay. He asked me. I felt sorry for the guy.
That's
I
just
said,
how I
please,
was raised,
please,
man.
brother, what's been taking you so long?
Yeah,
Please get her, take her.
I thought he was going to want to throw down too, and he was like, "Well, it took you long enough."
Took you long enough. Get her, man. Take care of her. I got 4 other ones I got to handle. Start feeding
can't
her.
get rid of one of them, right? Oh, I wish that one of the things that I would love to teach my kids is the values and the strengths and the priorities I have, but I don't want them to have to go through the journey that I did. And that's hard. I want my kids to learn to be hardworking and passionate and love God and not depend on themselves. But man, I don't want my kids to have to go through what I went through, And that's a hard thing as a parent.
That's a mama's heart. But
you want them
what?
to get all the good results without any struggle,
But you know what? They're going to have to go through their own fire. There's no shortcuts, is there?
They will.
But that's hard for a mama.
And you know how it is. Like you said, the mama bear. My kids tell me about things that happen in their school day or with a friend or whatever. And inside, I just want to go beat that person up, or I want to go, whatever. And I'm like, no, you have to teach them the right reaction, and that's hard for me.
I've heard it say that children are a person's heart walking on the outside of
Yes.
their body. For a mother, those are my 2 hearts walking out there.
And sometimes I feel like I struggle a lot in womanhood, motherhood. I don't have a reference I can go to,
Oh.
I can't call my mom. I don't have a super close relationship with my stepmom, which is a variety of things. My mother-in-law has been very, very sweet and open. But I just, I don't have the same relationship with her either. So some of it is, okay, what do I wish I had? What do I wish I would have had done? And I do draw from my relationship I had with my dad. My dad was a dad. He was not a mom, but he taught me a lot about, for example, my dad didn't mind if we asked questions as long as they were done properly. You know, I've been that way with my kids. They can ask me about anything. They can talk to me about anything that they don't understand. You know, at least I think they can. I don't think my kids have a secret life. You know, we never really know, but I want them to have what I didn't, but I want them to learn the values that I did. And that's a hard balance. It's a hard journey. I pray over them all the time. I
Good.
pray that I don't mess them up.
Yeah.
You know, God's pretty good at getting what he needs done.
Yeah.
But we humans get in the way sometimes.
Yeah. Even in our good intentions.
Mm-hmm. We've tried to always have them in church and around other people that can influence them, because I think children need to learn from more than their parents. I think they need to learn from other authority, from other people, you know, and you can learn good and bad. You know, my daughter's working a job with non-believers in a secular environment, and she comes home and she's just, you know, some days she's like, oh, they were talking about this or this happened, you know, and it's a good environment. I don't want you to think it's a bad environment, but it's not always a Christian environment. And it's been a way for me to help her understand and still be respectful to her managers. And you know what I'm saying? That's part of life, is we interact with the world every day. But I always encourage my kids to learn from people they like and people they don't like. If you didn't like that, then you make sure you don't do it the same way.
Man, that's good.
You know, and you can learn from anybody. I feel often that I mess up with my kids. But I've also learned to apologize to my kids.
That's important too.
And they don't expect us to be perfect. They don't. I just have to do the best that I can and rely on God's strength to be strong.
Yep.
And hopefully God fills it in. My pastor has a phrase that I've tried to use in my life. We've tried to use in our kids' life. I want my hands so full of God, there's no room for anything else. We've tried to do that with our kids. You know, we have them in church. We have them in a Christian school. We talk about God in our home. We read the Bible in our home. We have good music in the home. We point them to good resources. We encourage them to do stuff. And not that the world is terrible and they can't learn from the world, but I want their go-to to be God. And I want their go-to to be God even over me.
Yeah.
Because if someday I'm not doing the right thing, I don't want to lead them astray. I want them to rely on God. And I think as parents, the other thing, and you've got a lot more kids than I do, they're so different. You know, you think you get this one kid figured out, and then this other one comes along and they're very different. And even they change over time, and you have to adapt and you have to adjust and you have to, you know, be in the moment, and you have to be thinking through things. And back to motherhood, sometimes I feel like I've caused them more trauma than I have. I've had all these cardiac procedures. I've had all these other issues, and my poor tender-hearted 13-year-old just gets very concerned when anything happens with me. You know, she gets very nervous, very worried. You know, now she's old enough. She thinks about it. Yeah. She thinks about if something happened to me or something happened to daddy, or, you know, and I hope that I'm teaching her faith over fear. I hope that I'm not bringing unneeded stress in her life. But by the same token, you can teach them faith over fear. And that's the perfect way to do it. You know, it's that like trial by fire thing. So I don't know, everything has pluses and minuses, I guess.
Looking back, there's been times where I tried to create these teachable moments with my kids.
Yes.
And find a verse or something and like make, like, maybe I say a prayer, God use this, you know. But looking back, it was me.
Yeah.
It was me taking control, trying to make change and making change with godly principles, but it was still me.
Yeah.
I have, nowadays, I have more conversations with God about my kids than I do with my kids.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay? I have a lot more conversations with God about my kids than I do with my kids. Yeah. And that seems to be working. That seems to be working.
Yeah.
I'm thankful. and being okay with when God exposed me that I was wrong and I messed up, to be okay with my kids and say, hey, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I messed up. And kids are naturally like, uh, in a kid's eyes, their parents are their hero.
Yeah.
Like, and kids
They're
are
very forgiving.
kids. They're naturally prone to cutting somebody some slack.
Yeah.
They can pick up hypocrites real good.
Yeah, they can.
But they can also pick up some genuineness.
Yes, they can.
And they're prone to respond to genuineness and humility.
Well, I think also apologizing to our kids teaches them that we are not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We're not infallible, and we make mistakes just like everybody else. So I think it's good for them to learn, because if you teach a kid that you never make a mistake, well, then they're going to feel like they can never make a mistake,
Good. Kids are hard. I wouldn't give it up though. Kids are,
No.
like I said, my kids are my purpose, my identity. My kids have been so good for me.
Yes.
Kept me on the straight and narrow. They gave me my purpose, my identity. And they deserved much better than what they got, but I'm still trying.
Yeah.
And it ain't over till it's over. You know what I mean? Like we can always change.
Yes.
And at 50 years old, be able to call my kid up and say, hey, I just remembered this. I was wrong. Love you. Sorry.
Oh.
That feels good.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations like that. It's been good.
Good.
So your kids, you're going to mess them up because you're human.
No.
You're going to.
I don't want to mess them up.
We are imperfect,
I know.
grinding with imperfect. But it's a good life, man. It's a good life. And your life was a hard life, going through all these health issues that you've gone through, but you have a perspective. Again, I'm seeing this theme. A special needs sister who doesn't know what hurry means. Yeah. Health issues that are making you slow down. Like, you have a perspective that, hey, this can wait. I'm going to be in this moment with you. Yeah. And just hearing your relationship with your daughters, that's working. Like, you're in the moment. For a lot of years, I was not. I'm just in the future trying to grind it out and make it happen. Luckily, they have a good mom that was in the moment with them that they didn't get from me.
That's why we have good marriages. We balance.
Yeah. I got like 3 or 4 things there we can talk about, but I'm going to follow your lead there. We're going to wind this thing down. Is there anything else that you want to hit on that you're feeling? Is there anything resonating in you want to get out?
I think one thing that you asked me, and maybe you're going to get to it, is what would I tell somebody who's going through suffering?
That's a good one.
What piece of advice would I give? I think I would always tell people, like, it's okay to live in that moment. It's okay to be sad or depressed or discouraged, but just don't stay there. And my pastor did a message on Elijah that I thought was so powerful. Even Elijah, the man of God, was all angry and depressed and just wanted to die. And God's like, no, just go have some food, take a nap, and we'll start over. We all can have those moments of sadness or frustration or anger or depression or whatever. That's normal. That's okay to have. And don't tell yourself you can't have them. Just don't stay there, And I found that by claiming the promises of God and moving on, then you move on. You move on. And yes, you might still be in the moment. You need to come back to it. My cancer wasn't a one-day thing. My heart issue is not a one-day thing. It's a lifelong thing that you deal with. But it's how you respond to it. And I've also found that being able to talk to people helps, whether it's a good friend or a therapist, if that's what works for you, or a, spiritual leader or whatever. It can help you see a different perspective, and it can help you work through things. And, find somebody you can talk to, find somebody that can help you, not just somebody to talk to, but somebody that can help you. And also, one of the things that I've learned in my life that helped me through a lot of my hard times is find somebody you can serve. Because when you're serving other people, you can't focus on you. And maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's the neighbor, maybe it's somebody else. But that's how you can help yourself not stay there and move on, is by serving other people, because you can't focus on yourself. And also, if you're going through a hard time, you might not understand it. I didn't understand when I got cancer at 21. I didn't understand my knees. I didn't understand any of that. But the opportunity that I have had to share the gospel, share God's love, share with other people, I would have never had that opportunity if I wouldn't have had those trials. You know, I've been able to be a blessing to a lot of people going through cancer because I've been there. Like, I get it. I get what you're doing. I get what you're going through. I get your emotions. I get one thing nobody seems to talk about. It's a real thing, is survivor guilt. Why did I survive through cancer and my grandmother did not? We feel guilty because we survived. Like, you know, those things, I can talk to people about those things from a different perspective because I've been there. I've been there. And that is a testimony and a powerful thing that not everybody can have. You know, like, you grew up in a preacher's home. I don't know that. I didn't grow up in a preacher's home. So you can talk to other kids of preachers like I can't talk to. You know, God gives everybody a different journey so that we can bless other people and we can encourage other people because we get it. We've been there. And I think that's one of the things about suffering is we only see the ugly side of it, but there is good to suffering. And even Paul talked about, he had a thorn in the flesh. He never got rid of that.
Let's hear it, girl.
He never got rid of that.
You're almost preaching now, but let's go. Let's get it.
But yeah, Paul could be, he says, all things to all men. He'd been the spiritual leader in the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He'd been up in the Roman government. He was a Roman citizen. He'd been a tent maker. You know, he's all things to all people. And I think that's why people listen to him. And I think sometimes God gives us a journey so we can be a blessing to other people or talk to other people or just empathize with other people. But
what's the verse? Suffering produces patience.
Oh, yes.
Produces hope. There's like 3 or 4 things.
There. Yeah. And peace and love. Yeah.
You don't get it without suffering.
No.
It was providential that I said, hey, take the reins. It was providential because
that but God thing.
It was providential.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about off camera.
Sure.
But that's going to encourage some people that I couldn't help. That was good.
Good.
And I want to leave it there because that was powerful. I can't even make it sound any better than what you just did. That was perfect.
It's God. It's not me. And I'm not saying that to deflect. God has taught me so much in my life. I just want to share with people. He is good. And I can still say that. God is still good. I have so many blessings.
Yeah.
So many blessings.
So I'm glad that there was a case of mistaken identity.
I am too.
And if the real Josie's listening to this,
you
about
can reach out,
1985 to 1987, kindergarten, Miss Tyson was our teacher. I used to go by Terry, then my first name. We can talk. But I'm glad I found this Josie. This has been a pleasure. It's been a
great experience. And I enjoyed getting to know you and your wife yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
So I love how God brings people together.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to share hard stories in an open and transparent way, you don't know how that's going to have an impact on somebody. And we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So you got to hop on a flight here in a little while and head back to Maryland. So let's call it a wrap.
Okay, still strong. Watch me rise my way. Slow growth turns into real change. I